Chapter 2108. 2108 under 2108 support and sneak attack. Damn it. We are fighting here, but the people of the Dragon Palace are collecting our spoils of war. The Supreme Elder killed the demonic evil of the 9 wisps of divine fire, and the Dragon King took away the corpse. Now he wants us to continue to attack. Just by taking action we can gain so many benefits. The Dragon Palace is taking advantage of the situation. On the battlefield of the Yuhuatian Divine Sect, some disciples and even some god-level experts looked extremely embarrassed when they saw that the body of Wuxia that the Grand Elder had killed was taken away. They had sacrificed all the bodies of Wuxia, but the Dragon King was only able to defend a little. This was simply taking advantage of the situation. This made everyone from the Yuhuatian Divine Sect look indignant and extremely furious. Boom, boom. In the sky, Wang Xian displayed his full strength. The 5 elements millstone was suspended in the sky while the yin and yang poles were located below. Streams of destructive power bombarded the demonic evil in front of him. The attacks of 7 attributes allowed Wang Xian to completely suppress the demonic evil. However, he would need at least 5 to 6 minutes to kill it. However, he was not in a hurry. This was the battlefield of the Yuhuatian sect. If you are well rested, come and help quickly. This is the location of the Yuhuatian sect. It would be bad if the aftershocks hurt your disciples. 3 minutes later, Wang Xian said to the Supreme Elder of the Yuhuatian sect. Off. The Supreme Elder of the Yuhuatian sect, who was floating in the air with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes. He was like a wild beast that had just come out of its cage. He stared at Wang Xian, who was fighting with Wuxia, and moved his palms slightly. It's fine to take advantage of the situation, but if you want to rob the Yuhuatian sect, you will have to pay a heavy price. He mumbled as a murderous intent flashed across his eyes. All right. The Supreme Elder of the Yuhuatian sect swept his gaze across the surroundings. They were all around them. Even if they killed him, the other factions would not know about it. He smiled maliciously. With a move of his palm, the ball in his hand immediately turned into a great sun and attacked the evil demon. Kill this beast as soon as possible. Great Son of the Sky, burn. The Supreme Elder of the Yuhuatian Divine Sect shouted at Wang Xian. The Great Sun unleashed a powerful attack and attacked the evil demon. 5 elements Great Mill Trap. When Wang Xian saw him attack, the power of the 5 elements revolved. The powerful binding force caused the 9 demonic beasts to pause slightly. Roar. It looked at the Great Sun that was about to attack and revealed a panicked expression. However, how could the binding force of the 5 elements be so easily evaded? Boom. The huge Great Sun landed directly on the demonic beast's body. Roar. A miserable scream was heard. With a move of his arm, the dragon blood sword appeared in his hand. He moved his body and slashed directly at Wuxia's head. Die. In the sky, the 5 elements millstone was restraining Wuxia. The huge sun was burning him. Wang Xian appeared in the sky above Wuxia and the dragon blood sword landed directly on him. Roar. Roar. The 9 wisps of divine fire stared at Wang Xian with its blood-red eyes. The demon cave on his body was emitting darkness and was eroding towards him. Yin-Yang 5 elements Om's bowl. Wang Xian's body trembled as he resisted the invasion of darkness from the demon cave. Pooh. The dragon blood sword in his hand landed directly on Wuxia's head. Ao 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 ao. The 9 wisps of divine fire. Wuxia felt the threat of death. Its 6 claws attacked Wang Xian crazily. A counterattack before death. This is our chance, ha ha ha. Taking advantage of the situation to rob the Yuhuatian Divine Sect will cost you your life. Dragon King, not only will I kill you, even your Dragon Palace will have to pay a heavy price. At this moment, the Supreme Elder of the Yuhuatian Divine Sect, who was controlling the Great Sun, revealed a ferocious expression. He stared at Wang Xian's back with a bloodthirsty expression and his body was trembling. Divine Kingdom, destruction of the stars. Die for me, ha ha ha. The Supreme Elder of the Yuhuatian Divine Sect could not help but let out an excited roar, releasing all of his humiliation. The Divine Kingdom behind him, which had never been retracted, flew out one after another meteorites that contained terrifying flames. The meteorites attacked Wang Xian directly. It was at this moment that 5 meteors smashed toward Wang Xian before the demonic beast resisted. These flaming meteors have been nurtured in the Divine Kingdom for tens of thousands of years. Each of them is comparable to a divine weapon. It's your honor to die under these 5 meteors of mine, Dragon King. His sinister gaze locked onto the Dragon King. The supreme elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect's face was filled with malevolent killing intent. Oh, damn it, the supreme elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect actually launched a sneak attack. When Wang Xian sensed the attacks coming towards him, his expression changed slightly when he heard the excited roar of the supreme elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect. Yu Huatian divine sect, you are courting death. You actually launched a sneak attack on me. Wang Xian's expression changed slightly. A powerful killing intent shot out from his eyes as he roared coldly. His body moved and he flew towards the sky in a hurry. Roar, roar, roar. However, at this moment, the demonic blood-red eyes that were pierced by the dragon blood sword in front of him were filled with madness. One by one, his claws completely sealed off Wang Xian's surroundings. Oh no! There were demonic blood-red claws that were retaliating in front of him and 5 terrifying meteorites behind him. Wang Xian's expression changed slightly. 5 elements, defend. Yin-yang, defend. Wang Xian did not panic. His body emitted a 7-colored radiance. The 7-colored radiance slowly condensed into dragon scales that covered his entire body. He was prepared to take these 2 attacks head-on. Are you prepared to take them head-on? Then let me add more fire to you. The supreme elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect looked on with a ferocious expression. He waved his hands and a flaming spear slowly extended out from his divine kingdom that was like the sun. The flaming spear pierced straight through Wang Xian. The terrifying flaming radiance illuminated the entire sky. It was as if the void was penetrated. Our supreme elder is attacking the Dragon King who is taking advantage of the situation. Ah, good. Kill that Dragon King and let him be arrogant. He actually dares to humiliate us. Kill him. He actually dares to threaten us. Kill him. The sneak attack of the Yu Huatian divine sect's supreme elder in the sky immediately attracted the attention of all the disciples. When they saw the Dragon King who was attacked in the middle, all of them revealed expressions of excitement and savagery. Those who dared to rob them would die. Oh no, this group of traitors. Prime Minister Jiuai's expression changed slightly when he saw this sudden scene. His eyes revealed a cold killing intent. Attack them. However, at that moment, a god with 7 wisps of divine fire from the Yu Huatian sect not far away suddenly roared. At that moment, all the disciples of the Yu Huatian sect knew what to do. How dare you steal from us? Die. A yellow-robed young man saw the sudden change and immediately stared at a member of the Dragon Palace beside him. The sharp sword in his hand pierced through him. The member of the Dragon Palace who was caught off guard was instantly killed. Chapter 2109. 2109. No one could stop the people 2109 Dragon Palace wanted to destroy. Haha, how dare they snatch our fruits. Kill them. Kill those bastards from the Dragon Palace. How dare they rob us. The yellow-robed young man killed a member of the Dragon Palace. With a ferocious smile on his face, he immediately roared loudly. Kill. Kill them. I've been displeased with them for a long time. The disciples of the Yu Huatian sect shouted excitedly. Since the Supreme Elder had attacked the Dragon King, they could do the same. Moreover, they knew that the Supreme Elder had taken advantage of the moment when the Dragon King had killed the 9 wisps of divine fire. The Dragon King would have nowhere to hide. The Dragon King, who had taken advantage of the situation, was going to die. Be careful. Run to the Dragon Palace immediately. Prime Minister Gue quickly shouted at the members of the Dragon Palace. Haha, go to hell. The disciples of the Yu Huatian sect began to attack the members of the Dragon Palace without hesitation. Retreat. The hundreds of members of the Dragon Palace turned pale and quickly ran in the direction of the Dragon Palace. This was the territory of the Yu Huatian sect. There were around 700,000 to 800,000 disciples of the Yu Huatian sect. Just a few hundred members of the Dragon Palace were no match for them. Boom. At this moment, a terrifying collision sound came from the sky. Below, all the disciples of the Yu Huatian sect were slightly shocked. They immediately looked towards the sky. In the sky, Yao Xie and Wang Xian were enveloped by a sea of flames. Yao Xie's wails could be heard faintly. Haha, Dragon King, this is what you get for offending our Yu Huatian sect. The Supreme Elder of the Yu Huatian sect stared at the area covered in flames and revealed a hideous smile. Is he dead? Is the Dragon King dead? He should be dead. Ah, well done. Let them take advantage of the situation and rob us. Some disciples of the Yu Huaxian sect swept their gaze over and revealed excited expressions. They were even more motivated to fight Yao Xie, who was in front of them. Your Yu Huatian divine sect is really despicable. Today Wang Xian will definitely take your dog lives. At this moment, Wang Xian's figure slowly walked out from the center of the flames. His face was filled with cold killing intent. The sneak attack of the Supreme Elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect had indeed exceeded his expectations. It was also because he was more careless. He did not expect that the other party would actually dare to sneak attack him while he was resisting Yao Xie. If I don't have the dragon punishing bone today, I will be seriously injured even if I don't die. Wang Xian stared coldly at the Supreme Elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect. The dragon punishing bone could withstand 3 fatal attacks from those below the Eternal Lord. Just now, the dragon punishing bone blocked the flaming spear for him. What? You are not dead yet. When the Supreme Elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect saw Wang Xian walk out safely, he was slightly stunned. His face revealed a look of shock. He fixed his gaze on Wang Xian and realized that not only was he not dead, he was not injured at all. This made his heart sink. He had a bad premonition. His attack just now had used the kingdom of God. It was his strongest attack. I came to help you guys and let you guys escape this calamity. Now you guys actually dare to sneak attack me. Die. Wang Xian's face revealed a violent expression. Crush. He spread his arms and the incorporeal holy wings appeared behind his back. The incorporeal holy wings, which were more than 20 meters wide, didn't have any energy aura. 5 elements millstone obliterate. The 5 elements millstone in the sky released a grayish energy. This energy covered an area of 200 to 300 kilometers and directly covered the area below. At this moment, Wang Xian was attacking indiscriminately. Be it Yao Xie or the disciples of the Yu Huaxian sect, they were completely enveloped by it. Damn it, stop. When the Supreme Elder of the Yu Huaxian sect saw Wang Xian's indiscriminately attacking range, his face revealed a look of shock and anger. He let out a wild roar and the ball in his hand instantly enlarged and burned towards the river of annihilation. Prime Minister Gue, bring the rest of the disciples of the Dragon Palace over. Today we will destroy the Yu Huaxian sect. Wang Xian looked at Prime Minister Gue, who was leading a group of members of the Dragon Palace to escape, and immediately ordered loudly. It's the Dragon King. Prime Minister Gue nodded his head darkly and immediately flew towards the Dragon Palace. Ah! Roar! 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 At this moment there were screams coming from below. The screams of Yao Xie and the screams of the Yu Huaxian sect disciples. Hee, do you really think you can withstand my attack? Wang Xian's gaze swept across the area below and his face revealed a cold expression. The Supreme Elder of the Yu Huaxian sect did not manage to withstand the attack just now. All Yao Xie and the Yu Huaxian sect disciples within a radius of 50 kilometers were killed. In an instant, at least 50,000 to 60,000 Yu Huatian divine sect disciples were killed. Dragon King, you are courting death. How dare you attack our Yu Huatian divine sect disciples? The Supreme Elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect looked over and revealed a furious expression. He roared and his voice reverberated within a radius of tens of millions of kilometers. If you dare to ambush me, today will be the end for all of you. Wang Xian snorted coldly. He flapped his premolous holy wings and attacked him directly. You are courting death. A terrifying killing intent shot out from the eyes of the Supreme Elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect. He waved his palm with an embarrassed expression. Streams of flaming palms were smacked toward Wang Xian. Buzz. The wings on Wang Xian's back trembled slightly and he easily dodged the attacks. In the sky, the 5 elements millstone came to the sky above the Yu Huaxian divine sect's Supreme Elder. Streams of binding force fell towards his position. What a fast speed! When the Yu Huaxian divine sect's Supreme Elder saw Wang Xian's speed, his heart sank. When he saw the gray light, he hurriedly dodged to the side. Buzz. However, in the next moment, Wang Xian appeared beside him and slashed at the dragon blood sword in his hand. Damn it! His expression changed slightly. He waved his hand and a palm condensed from lava blocked in front of the dragon blood sword. Bang! The dragon blood sword slashed and the palm formed from lava was immediately broken. Yu Huaxian's expression changed slightly when he was attacked by the supreme elder of the sect. At this moment he could feel the gray energy enveloping him. The speed of his entire body had almost doubled. Oh no! Dragon King, now is the time to resist the demonic beast. This is the time for us to put aside our grudges for now. His expression changed as he shouted at Wang Xian hurriedly. As long as your Yu Huaxian sect is destroyed today, our grudges will end. Wang Xian's eyes were filled with killing intent. He flapped his incipient saint wings and instantly appeared behind him. The dragon blood sword in his hand slashed directly at his body. Ah! The face of the supreme elder of the Yu Huaxian divine sect changed slightly. He hurriedly dodged to the side. However, Wang Xian's speed was too fast. Coupled with the interference of the five elements force, he only managed to avoid his vital parts. His entire right arm and a small part of his body were chopped off. Chapter 2110. 2110. No one could stop the people from 2110 Dragon Palace. What's going on? What happened between Yu Huaxian sect and Dragon Palace? Could it be that the Dragon Palace and Yu Huaxian sect got into a fight? Damn it, they are actually fighting among themselves at this moment. When the shouts of the Yu Huaxian sect's supreme elder and Wang Xian spread across a radius of 10 million kilometers, the people from the Northern Expedition Trading Company, the God-Burning Dynasty, and the Enchanting Divine sect looked in this direction. They frowned slightly, and their faces revealed an embarrassed expression. Now, while they were resisting the demonic forces, they were actually fighting among themselves. This made the other three factions' faces extremely embarrassed. The internal conflict between the Dragon Palace and the Yu Huatian Divine Sect would definitely have a great impact on the fight against the Demon Lair. At that time they would face even more demonic forces. Are the Yu Huatian Divine Sect and the Dragon Palace courting death? At the Northern Expedition Trading Company, the bright old man growled with a gloomy face. He stared at Yao Xie, who was at the peak of the deity realm, and a furious expression appeared on his face. After dealing with this Yao Xie, he would definitely rush to the left and ask what the Yu Huatian sect and the Dragon Palace were up to. Were they trying to destroy them? Not good, our Grand Elder is injured. At that moment, all the disciples on the Yu Huatian sect's battlefield heard their Grand Elder's screams and revealed terrified expressions. When the Dragon King appeared, they were shocked. Now that they saw the Grand Elder was injured, they were even more shocked and furious. Disciples of the Dragon Palace, follow me and destroy everyone in the Yu Huatian Divine Sect. However, at this moment, 7,000 to 8,000 members of the Dragon Palace suddenly flew toward them from the right. At the forefront of the group was a group of godly state experts. More than 50 godly state members of the Dragon Palace charged toward them under Prime Minister Gui's leadership. Each member of the Dragon Palace was exuding a violent aura. What? How come they have so many godly state experts? Not good. The 50 or so people at the front are all godly state experts. Didn't the Dragon Palace only have 30 or so godly state experts? When everyone from the Yu Huatian Divine Sect saw this scene, they were shocked. There were only about 30-odd gods in total, and more than 20 of them were fighting against Yao Xie, who was at the godly state. Now, more than 50 godly state experts had rushed out from the Dragon Palace. This made all the disciples of the Yu Huatian Divine Sect feel their scalps go numb. Even those godly state experts had grave expressions and were filled with fear. Kill? At that moment, Prime Minister Gui gave an order. More than 50 godly state experts of the Dragon Palace immediately released terrifying attacks. Terrifying arrows, violent lightning, and branches filled the sky. Attacks covered the sky and covered the earth as they headed toward the disciples of the Yu Huaxian sect. They were all AoE attacks and did not show any mercy. They covered Yao Xie and the disciples of the Yu Huaxian sect in the middle of the battlefield. Not good, quickly block them, quickly block them. How is this possible? How can they have so many deity realm experts? When the Yu Huaxian sect disciples saw so many deity realm experts in the Dragon Palace and saw the dense energy covering an area of more than 10,000 kilometers, their faces were filled with fear. Some of the disciples even looked at the attacks in despair. How could they defend? They could not defend at all. It's over. Some of the Yu Huaxian sect's godly state experts turned pale as well. They quickly took action. However, the difference in the number of godly state experts was too great. In addition, some of the godly state experts were fighting against Yao Xie. They had no ability to defend. In front of them were countless Yao Xie and the godly state experts from the Dragon Palace. Boom, boom, boom. Terrifying attacks landed in the middle of the battlefield. Countless Yao Xie and 300,000 to 400,000 Yu Huashan sect disciples were killed by this round of attacks. An extremely tragic sound rang out. How is this possible? The yellow-robed youth was not in the range of the attacks. He looked at all the disciples and Yao Xie within a radius of 10,000 kilometers being cleared out. His body trembled violently. The Yu Huashan sect had millions of disciples and more than 30 deity realm experts. About 100,000 of them had died while fighting Yao Xie. Now, with just one round of attack from the Dragon Palace, at least 400,000 disciples had been killed. All of them were demigod-level disciples. Dragon Palace, Dragon King, you are courting death. The supreme elder of the Yu Huashan sect, who was in the sky, saw the scene below. His heavily injured body revealed a ferocious expression. His entire body was enveloped in flames. New arms were slowly being formed where he had been cut off. It's all your fault. Wang Xian stared at him and smiled coldly. He held the dragon blood sword in his hand and attacked him once again. The supreme elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect, who was restrained and disrupted by the powers of the five elements, could not react in time. Great Sun Divine Kingdom hit it. The supreme elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect also knew the situation he was in. With a vicious expression he roared loudly. Bus. The divine kingdom that was at the side directly collided with the five elements millstone in the sky. Boom. The terrifying force collided with the five elements millstone, causing it to fly backward. The binding force of the five elements on his body disappeared. His expression changed and he hurriedly flew into the divine kingdom. The vibration of the divine kingdom caused blood to flow out from the corner of his mouth. However, he couldn't care less at this moment. He stared at Wang Xian in a frenzy. Crash. A demonic glow shot out from Wang Xian's eyes. He flapped the Primalist Saint wings and continued to charge at him. Under the cover of the scorching sun, everything will be destroyed. The supreme elder of the Yu Huashan divine sect stood on the divine kingdom and roared. Rays of light shone toward Wang Xian like laser beams. The gas in the void was burning rapidly. Yin-Yang Tai Chi defend. The dragon blood sword in Wang Xian's hand slashed and a Tai Chi pattern appeared in front of him. The Tai Chi rotated and rays of light were shifted. Wang Xian controlled the five elements grinding mill. The five divine dragons on it roared and opened their huge mouths. Boom, 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 boom. Streams of immense destructive power formed 5 columns of destruction that shot out from the mouths of the 5 divine dragons. The 5 attacks landed on the divine kingdom, causing the entire divine kingdom to tremble violently. Slash. Wang Xian raised the dragon blood sword in his hand. A 7-colored ray of light slashed directly at the supreme elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect on the divine kingdom. When the Yu Huashan divine sect's supreme elder saw the attacks, he quickly hid in the divine kingdom. However, the divine kingdom and the gods were one entity. When the attacks landed on the divine kingdom, the Yu Huashan divine sect's supreme elder revealed a trace of fear in his eyes. He vomited blood. He knew that he was no match for the Dragon King. Kill, leave no one alive. At the bottom, 7 or 8,000 members of the Dragon Palace charged into the battlefield of the Yu Huatian sect. There were more than 50 gods, and the rest were all at the peak of the 9th-ranked demigod realm. They killed the disciples of the Yu Huatian sect in a frenzy. The disciples of the Yu Huatian sect who had been attacked all along were dying at a terrifying speed. Chapter 2111. 2111. No one could stop 2111 Dragon Palace from exterminating them. No, no, no. My lord, please save us, please save us. Supreme Elder, save us. Screams came from the Yu Huashan sect disciples. They looked at the powerful members of the Dragon Palace and their faces were filled with panic and despair. Facing Yao Xie and the members of the Dragon Palace, they didn't even have the chance to escape. If they continued, what awaited them would be extermination and death. One by one, the Yu Huatian sect disciples cried out for help in fear. Above the Great Sun Divine Kingdom, the Yu Huatian sect's supreme elder kept spitting out blood. He was now relying on his divine kingdom to fend off Wang Xian's attacks. A crack appeared on his divine kingdom. Every attack would cause his heart to tremble and the injuries on his body to worsen. He swept his gaze across the area and saw his disciples being killed one by one. His face was filled with fury. Dragon King, tell all of you to stop immediately. I'm warning you. If you dare to continue killing today, the Yu Huatian divine sect will not let you off. Our sect master will not let you off either. The supreme elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect roared at Wang Xian with a ferocious expression. After I exterminate all of you, I will go to your Yu Huatian divine sect's lair and kill your sect master. Wang Xian sneered when he heard the threat from the supreme elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect. He waved his arm and the 5 elements millstone flew to the sky above the divine kingdom. Below, the yin and yang poles were rotating slowly. Not good. Seeing Wang Xian continue to attack, the supreme elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect revealed a look of crisis. His heart tightened and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. If this continued, he might die. If this continued, all the disciples of the Yu Huatian sect might be killed. Vice President of the Northern Expedition Trading Company, the Dragon King of the Dragon Palace wants to destroy us. We are members of the Northern Territory Alliance. Save us. The expression of the Supreme Elder of the Yu Huatian sect kept changing as he shouted towards the center. At this moment, he could only pray for the experts from the Northern Expedition Trading Company to come over and stop this crazy Dragon King. No one will be able to protect you today. Wang Xian's face turned cold when he saw that Wang Xian was still trying to ask for help. His arm shook as 7-colored energy spread towards his divine kingdom. The 7 luminary space slowly surrounded him. The Yu Huatian sect is about to be destroyed? Are they not a match for the Dragon Palace? What are they doing? Those 2 damnable things are still causing trouble for us. The voice of the Yu Huatian divine sect's supreme elder caused the expressions of the experts from the Northern Expedition Trading Company to become somewhat unsightly. Chen Yuanfeng, bring some people over to take a look. Tell them whether they want to be destroyed or not. The Light Elder, who was currently fighting against a peak deity, had a gloomy expression on his face when he heard this cry for help. Their situation had been stabilized, and there was still a god with 9 divine flames to spare. It's the Vice President. A burly old man nodded. He looked at the few gods beside him and flew to the left with a gloomy expression. The Dragon Palace and the Yu Transformation Divine Sect are really looking for trouble. A middle-aged man beside Chen Yuanfeng said with a gloomy expression. Let's go. Chen Yuanfeng immediately flew to the left with a cold expression. His entire body was filled with murderous intent. He was filled with anger at the situation at Yu Huatian sect's side. They moved very, very fast. They covered a distance of several million kilometers very quickly. There doesn't seem to be any problem with the Dragon Palace. When they arrived at the battlefield at the Dragon Palace, they saw more than 10,000 members of the Dragon Palace fighting Wuxia. The 5 of them raised their brows slightly. The members of the Dragon Palace are so powerful. No wonder only 10,000 people dare to come here. A god glanced over and said in surprise. Continue. Chen Yuanfeng paused and continued to fly toward the Yu Huatian sect. Boom. When they arrived above the Yu Huatian sect, they immediately saw a rainbow-colored space floating in the sky. The rainbow-colored space covered an area of 500 kilometers, and it was emitting chaotic and heart-palpitating fluctuations. A powerful impact came from within. Hissed Lord Chen, look. Those are members of the Dragon Palace. 7,000 to 8,000 people from the Dragon Palace are slaughtering all the disciples of the Yu Huatian sect. At that moment, a god's shocked voice came from beside them. Chen Yuanfeng immediately looked over and was slightly shocked. More than 50 gods? How is this possible? There were more than 20 gods fighting against Wuxia at the position of the Dragon Palace just now. Those people are indeed members of the Dragon Palace. Didn't the Dragon Palace only have more than 30 gods? Now there are actually more than 70. This is much more than the information we received. A shocked voice rang out and Chen Yuanfeng's expression turned solemn. Stop. All of you, stop the Northern Expedition Trading Company. When Chen Yuanfeng saw the members of the Dragon Palace wantonly slaughtering the disciples of the Yu Transformation Divine Sect, he shouted sternly. The Lord of the Northern Expedition Trading Company is here. Lord, save us. Save us. When all the disciples of the Yu Transformation Divine Sect saw the arrival of the 5 gods of the Northern Expedition Trading Company, a look of survival appeared on their faces as they hurriedly shouted. When the yellow-robed youth who had been hiding behind them saw them, a look of hope appeared on his face as he hurriedly flew over. "Lord, save us, save us. The Dragon Palace wants to destroy us." The yellow-robed youth shouted loudly. "Continue, kill." Prime Minister Gue stood in the center. When he saw the yellow-robed youth wanting to fly over, his eyes revealed a cold expression. The turtle shell on his back emitted a thick earthy yellow energy. An earth spike appeared out of thin air under the yellow-robed young man. "No, my lord, save me." The yellow-robed young man was shocked when he saw this scene. He didn't expect that the people of the Dragon Palace would dare to attack him in front of the experts of the Northern Expedition Trading Company. Damn it, they don't even listen to our orders. Qian Yuanfeng's expression turned cold when he saw this scene. He waved his arm, and a ray of light directly enveloped the yellow-robed youth. The earth spike was directly blocked by the light. Prime Minister Jiuai's expression changed slightly. "If you dare to attack again, don't blame us for being impolite. Anyone who disturbs the peace of the alliance will die." Qian Yuanfeng warned once again, full of killing intent. Huff huff huff. The yellow-robed young man looked excited when he saw that his life was saved. Boom. "No, no, no, Dragon King, you can't kill me." At this moment, a terrified voice sounded. The supreme elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect suddenly rushed out from the seven luminaries' space. At this moment, his face was covered in blood and he was in a terrible state. His face was full of fear and despair. "Save me." He stared at Qian Yuanfeng and the other five and shouted desperately with his arms outstretched. Qian Yuanfeng and the rest looked over with astonishment in their eyes. "No one can stop the people that my Dragon Palace wants to destroy." A blood-red long sword pierced into the body of the supreme elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect. Wang Xian flapped his incorporeal sacred wings and swept his gaze across the five people from the Northern Expedition Trading Company. "Continue to kill. Whoever dares to stop us will be the enemy of our Dragon Palace." Wang Xian shouted coldly and angrily. Chapter 2112. 2112 was completely annihilated. "Continue to kill. Anyone who dares to stop us will be an enemy of the Dragon Palace." A cold voice resounded through the void. The surrounding evildoers roared and the Yu Huatian sect disciples screamed. When they heard the Dragon King's words, their expressions changed instantly. This Dragon King actually dared to ignore the people from the Northern Expedition Trading Company. However, when they saw the Dragon King's body pierced through by the sharp sword in his hand, all of them trembled again. Their Grand Elder was actually killed. This made all the disciples of the Yu Huatian divine sect feel a wave of fear in their hearts. Boom boom boom. Wang Xian's order caused the members of the Dragon Palace to attack once again. Miserable screams rang out once again. Everyone's expression changed drastically. Dragon King. Qian Yuanfeng saw that Wang Xian did not take him seriously at all and did not place the Northern Expedition Trading Company in his eyes. His face revealed a gloomy expression. He stared at Wang Xian and shouted coldly. "Dragon King, are you guys going to make an enemy out of our Northern Expedition Trading Company? During the period of resisting the demonic beasts, you killed the Alliance forces. Your Dragon Palace cannot bear this crime." He stared at Wang Xian with a murderous look and shouted again. "My friend from the Northern Expedition Trading Company, I, Dragon King, have just come to support the Yu Huatian sect. I did not expect that the Grand Elder would dare to sneak attack me. With such actions, do you really think that our Dragon Palace is easy to bully? If anyone dares to stop me today, don't blame me for not giving you face." Wang Xian stared at Qian Yuanfeng and said coldly without showing any signs of weakness. "Launch a sneak attack on you?" Qian Yuanfeng frowned slightly. "Nonsense, you are the one who wants to take advantage of the situation. You are the one who wants all the demonic corpses of the Yu Huatian sect." The yellow-robed young man saw the hesitation on the faces of the five people from the Northern Expedition Trading Company and immediately shouted sternly. "Hee hee, you are just an ant. Do you still want to live?" Wang Xian stared at the yellow-robed young man who had a stern look on his face. With a wave of his arm, a dragon claw went straight for him. Qian Yuanfeng's pupils constricted slightly when he saw Wang Xian attacking the young man who was protecting him. However, he pursed his lips when he sensed Wang Xian staring at him coldly and when he saw the surrounding gods locking onto him. The situation in front of him was very obvious. The Yu Huatian divine sect had invited the Dragon King to make a move, and the Dragon King had demanded for all the demonic corpses. However, the Yu Huatian divine sect had no choice but to agree under such circumstances. However, they were very unwilling to accept it. The supreme elder of the Yu Huatian divine sect had launched a sneak attack and wanted to kill the Dragon King. In the end, he ended up in such a situation. He stood there with a gloomy face and did not make a move. He was not confident in fighting against the Dragon King's strength. The number of divine realm experts in the Dragon Palace had shocked him. Unless their vice president and the others came personally, he was a little afraid and did not dare to make a move rashly. "Sir, save me, save me." The yellow-robed young man looked terrified when he saw Wang Xian's dragon claw attacking him. He turned to Chen Yuanfeng and pleaded for help. However, he did not receive any response. The dragon claw reached out and all the sounds stopped abruptly. "Do it." Wang Xian swept his gaze around and shouted softly. "Kill?" All the members of the Dragon Palace roared with murderous intent on their faces. They began to slaughter the disciples of the Yu Huashan sect below. "Don't kill me, don't kill me. We are not from the Yu Huashan sect. Don't kill us. This matter has nothing to do with us. It has nothing to do with us." Terrified voices rang out one after another as Wang Xian floated in the sky indifferently. The Dragon Palace and the Yu Huashan sect didn't end up in a situation where one side was bound to die. However, the sneak attack by the supreme elder of the Yu Huashan sect and the attack by the people below were too much. Wang Xian saw it very clearly. At that time, the people from the other clans surrounding the members of the Dragon Palace were all attacking the members of the Dragon Palace. During the attack just now, dozens of the disciples of the Dragon Palace had died. It was already too late to say that it had nothing to do with them. The mistake had been made. All they had to do was to accept the judgment. "Let me deal with you guys with the 8 wisps of divine fire." At this moment, Wang Xian also made his move. He locked onto 4 of the 8 wisps of divine fire and rushed over directly. Chen Yuanfeng frowned slightly as he watched the Dragon Palace massacre the Yu Huashan sect. His expression was a little ugly. This time, the Dragon Palace did not give face to the Northern Expedition Trading Company after all. "HMPH Dragon King, your Dragon Palace has destroyed the Yu Huashan sect. You guys should come and resist this evil faction as well." Chen Yuanfeng growled coldly at Wang Xian. He turned around and flew toward the center. "Mind your own business." Wang Xian's eyes sparkled as he watched them disappear. Wang Xian did not have a good impression of the Northern Territory Alliance. Each of the factions was based on their own interests. Even the Northern Expedition Trading Company was based on their own interests. Their style was also very domineering. Right now, I should focus on improving the strength of the Dragon Palace. Wang Xian scanned his surroundings. This time he had obtained at least 100 immortal-level corpses. Among them, 3 of them had already ignited 9 wisps of divine fire. They were able to give birth to another member of the Dragon Palace who had the combat strength of 2 more wisps of divine fire. I wonder how much the treasures in the divine kingdom of God can increase my dragon chi. Wang Xian thought to himself with a smile on his face. War could increase the Dragon Palace's strength rapidly. He wanted to increase his strength to the peak of the godly state as soon as possible. After reaching the peak of the godly state, Wang Xian was not afraid of anyone in the entire northern region except for the 5 godly masters. The matter between the Yu Huatian divine sect and the Dragon Palace has been resolved, right? Just as Chen Yuanfeng returned to the Northern Expedition Trading Company, a voice was heard. "Vice President." Chen Yuanfeng's expression darkened as he looked towards the source of the voice. When he saw that the vice president's arm was broken, he was slightly taken aback. The vice president was corroded by the power of darkness. Fortunately, the peak of the godly state Wuxia was killed by the vice president. A deity whispered to Chen Yuanfeng. "Vice President, all the members of the Yu Huatian divine sect have been destroyed by the Dragon Palace." Chen Yuanfeng immediately reported to the old man. The old man was slightly stunned. He stopped bandaging his arm and looked at Chen Yuanfeng. "Vice President, the Dragon Palace is very powerful. When we went there, we found that there were more than 70 deities. When I arrived, the Dragon King killed the supreme elder of the Yu Hua divine sect. I wanted to stop him, but the Dragon King was very powerful. There were so many godly state experts and I didn't defend him." Chen Yuanfeng reported to him. "More than 70 godly state experts? How is this possible? Hiss, how can there be so many experts in a small dragon palace? When the surrounding gods heard his words, shock appeared on their faces. The old man's eyes also flashed with astonishment. As the strongest force outside of Eternal Thunderclap in the northern region, the Northern Expedition Trading Company only had more than 50 godly state experts. However, the Dragon Palace actually had more than 70, and this was only revealed. There were still some hidden possibilities. Are you not giving face to our Northern Expedition Trading Company? He asked Chen Yuanfeng faintly. Chen Yuanfeng nodded. Chapter 2113. 2113 Son of Heaven Devil Dragon 2113. More than 70 deity realm experts. This is truly unexpected. Fortunately, they do not have any peak deity realm experts. The Bright Elder muttered as he felt a threat. However, they did not destroy the Yuhuashan sect, nor did they destroy the various factions that followed the Yuhuashan sect. His eyes sparkled. The sect master of the Yuhuashan sect did not come. In addition, when they came to the Forest of Darkness to resist Wuxia, the 200 or so deity realm experts from the 30 or so factions were only 1/3 or 1/4 of the strength of the Northern Territory Alliance. They could not send all their forces over. It would be considered a lot if they could even send 1/3 of their forces over. Most of them sent about 1/5 of their forces. In other words, the Dragon Palace did not destroy the Yuhuashan sect's forces. They only destroyed 1/4 to 1/5 of their forces. What a foolish fellow. When the Yuhuashan sect master and the other forces receive this news, they will probably immediately come and destroy the Dragon Palace. The Radiant Elder said indifferently. The remaining forces of the Yuhuashan sect's forces were added together, and there were more than 100 deity realm experts. If the sect master of the Yuhuashan sect found out about this, he would definitely lead all the deities to attack and destroy the Dragon Palace. At that time, the Dragon Palace would not have the strength to withstand the wrath of the Yuhuashan sect. Vice President, are we going to tell the Yuhuashan sect about this? Chen Yuanfeng's heart skipped a beat. He had somewhat neglected the remaining forces of the Yuhuashan sect. There is no need for that for now. It will only cause more trouble. Since there are so many divine realm experts from the Dragon Palace, let them fend off Wuxia on the left. Let nature take its course. We will not participate in this. The Bright Elder smiled faintly. His eyes were filled with wisdom. Yes. Chen Yuanfeng nodded slightly. The war was still ongoing. However, the danger to the Northern Region Alliance was basically over. There was no invincible existence among the army of Wuxia. The most tragic one might be the Yuhuatian sect. They encountered 2 Wuxia with 9 wisps of divine fire and were completely destroyed by the Dragon Palace in the end. The other forces did not suffer great losses. Of course, compared to the death of a godly state expert and the destruction of the Yuhuatian sect, the losses were huge. The losses of each faction's disciples were no less than 200,000 to 300,000. Few were finally done. Haha, so many of Wuxia's corpses are a huge opportunity for us. 7 to 8 hours later, hundreds of millions of Wuxia were all slaughtered. At the Northern Expedition Trading Company, an old man stared at the corpses floating in the air with excitement. Although Wuxia is powerful, he isn't as terrifying as we imagined. At the very least, we were able to completely block him. A middle-aged man beside him also said with a smile. Next, it was time to reap the rewards. This isn't all of Wuxia's strength. It might even be 1/5 or 1/6 of his strength. It's 1/10 of his strength. At this moment, the old man of light, whose arm was bandaged with white cloth, heard their words and said indifferently. Oh, Vice Guild leader of the Northern Expedition, the number of demonic beasts is indeed many and very strong, but most of them have been blocked by eternal thunderclap. Our side should be relatively safe. The middle-aged man was slightly taken aback as he smiled at the old man of light. I'm talking about the number of demonic beasts on our side. According to the information we received from the Northern Expedition Trading Company, demonic beasts occupy 3 vital planets, and they are densely packed on the planets. The number of demonic beasts we killed just now might not even be half a planet. The old man of light shook his head. This can't be true, right? Everyone was slightly shocked, and shock appeared on their faces. This is only the beginning. We cannot let our guard down. Put away all of demonic beasts' corpses. Go and call the other leaders of the Northern Alliance over and have a meeting. the old man said. The surrounding people immediately nodded. A few gods went to call the leaders over. Roar, roar, roar. Roar, roar, roar. At the same time, in the vast starry sky of the northern region, 3 planets floated in the void space of the universe. On these 3 planets, bloodthirsty and evil roars could be heard continuously. The aura of the wilderness filled a radius of hundreds of millions of kilometers. Apart from the ferocious demonic beasts, there were no other creatures in this area. 2 billion demonic beasts died in one go. Even a few peak god-level demonic beasts died. Did they encounter human experts? Damn it, things didn't go as smoothly as they did at the beginning. We still need some resources. We still need some more. If we want to build an eternal divine kingdom, we must have treasures at the level of an eternal God Master. As long as I have enough resources, I'll be able to become an eternal God Master. I won't have to deal with these damn demons, and some of them won't even be under my control. On the planet in the center, there was a huge creature sitting on a mountain peak. Its entire body was pitch black and it had pieces of shiny black scales. Its huge body was like a work of art. From afar it didn't look evil at all. Instead, it exuded a kind of dignity and majesty. Roar. Looks like I'll have to move out myself. I hope I'll be able to obtain a good harvest from the God Lord level forces. As for the other places, I'll stop for now. A dragon's roar sounded from his mouth. Following that, he raised his proud head slightly and flew towards a certain direction in the air. Servants, follow me. Roar. He swayed his huge body and flew directly into the void. With a wild roar, he gave off an incomparably terrifying pressure. Roar, roar, roar. The entire planet's Wuxia let out a roar, and billions of Wuxia flew into the sky at the position behind him. Set off eternal shocking thunder. He let out a low roar, and his body swayed as he flew towards the direction of eternal shocking thunder. No one knew what happened here, nor did anyone see it. If Wang Xian saw that huge creature, he would definitely recognize it immediately. The demonic dragon, son of heaven. Everyone take a seat. In the sky above the forest of darkness, a huge divine kingdom was floating in the void. The people in charge of the Northern Territory Alliance had arrived one by one. Wang Xian rushed over after receiving the news. He scanned his surroundings. There were 33 people in the previous meeting, but there were only about 20 of them now. Of course, most of them were killed by him. Everyone is here. Let's discuss what to do next. The Elder of Light swept his gaze across the surroundings and said, "Oh, the faction from the Yu Huatian Divine Sect has not arrived yet." At the location of the God-burning Divine Dynasty, an elder swept his gaze across everyone around and asked with some doubt, "They're all dead. They won't be able to come." The Old Man of Light said faintly as he looked at Wang Xian, "Don't look at me. The Yu Huatian Divine Sect asked me for help to fight against a demonic evil with 9 wisps of divine fire. However, they launched a sneak attack after that. I had no choice but to retaliate." Wang Xian said faintly. "Ha." However, when everyone around him heard his words, their expressions changed slightly. A hint of shock appeared on their faces. Chapter 2114. 2114 on 2114's tip-off. The Dragon Palace destroyed the forces of the Yu Huatian sect. The Yu Huatian sect is not weak at all. Shocked voices rang out from the council. Some of them looked at Wang Xian in astonishment, their eyes gleaming. At this moment, Dragon King, you have lost a lot of power by destroying the Yu Huatian sect. The old man from the enchanting divine sect frowned slightly and said faintly, "They are courting death. They asked for my help but ambushed me in the end. Am I supposed to keep them alive?" Wang Xian said faintly to the old man, "No matter what, your Dragon Palace has destroyed the Yu Huatian sect and caused our Northern Region Alliance to suffer a great loss. Next, you will take over the position of the Yu Huatian sect. With more than 70 godly state experts from your Dragon Palace, you can definitely achieve this." The bright elder from the Northern Expedition Trading Company said faintly. Wang Xian raised his eyebrows slightly and didn't say anything. The rest of the forces stared at Wang Xian in astonishment. There was a hint of shock in their eyes. More than 70 gods. This was an extremely huge number. Wuxia is temporarily held back. However, according to the information we have received, the number of Wuxia is far more than the number that attacked us this time. It is very likely that they will continue to attack us next. Everyone be prepared when the time comes. The old man from the Northern Expedition Trading Company shifted his gaze away from Wang Xian and said faintly, "We will be guarding this place now. We will kill as many as there are. Speaking of which, we have gained quite a lot this time." The middle-aged man from the Burning God dynasty said with a smile on his face, "Everyone should have harvested quite a lot from Yaoxia's corpse. I think your Dragon Palace must have harvested the most. I don't know if your Yaoxia's corpse is for sale, but we can buy it. If the rest of your faction sell Yaoxia's corpse, we can also buy it at a high price." The old man of light swept his gaze around and said to them, "We also have use for the body of Yaoxia. If you are selling it, our Dragon Palace will also buy it at a high price." Wang Xian shook his head slightly and said the same thing. The body of Yaoxia was very precious to the Dragon Palace. He had a lot of spirit stones in his hands. Using these spirit stones to buy the body of Yaoxia would definitely be a win-win situation. Ha! When the Elder of Light heard Wang Xian's words, his pupils narrowed slightly. A hint of displeasure could be seen in his eyes. Their Northern Expedition Trading Company was a trading company. They could obtain a lot of benefits by purchasing the demonic corpses. If the Dragon Palace were to purchase the demonic corpses at a high price, it would be a complete snatch of business from them. We don't need so many demonic corpses. Instead, we can make a move." When the God-burning Empire and the enchanting Divine Gate saw this scene, they revealed a hint of a smile. "Continue to stand guard here. If there is any situation, we will proceed as before." The Elder of Light stood up slowly and walked outside with an expressionless face. "In a while, I will get the Prime Minister of the Dragon Palace to come and talk to you about the demonic corpse. If you are willing to sell it, we can talk about it." Wang Xian stood up as well and said with a smile on his face. After that, he walked out. When everyone saw Wang Xian and the rest leaving, the person in charge of the God-burning God dynasty's demonic god sect watched this scene indifferently. This Dragon King is really young and impetuous. The remaining strength of the Yu Huashan sect is not weak. Not only is he not weak, but there are more than 100 gods. I wonder where his courage comes from. The bewitching corpse is not a small benefit to the Northern Expedition Trading Company. I didn't expect the Dragon King to want the bewitching corpse as well. This is not bad for us. We will sell it to whoever offers the highest price. The person in charge of the God-burning God dynasty and the bewitching god sect revealed a smile. The person in charge of the other factions also revealed a smile. This was a good thing for them. Immediately convert all the corpses into strength. Ao Qitian, Ao Xingmu, both of you enter the dragon pool and raise your strength to the 9 wisps of divine fire first. When Wang Xian returned to the Dragon Palace, the members of the Dragon Palace immediately instructed. "It's the Dragon King." The members of the Dragon Palace nodded their heads. "Prime Minister Gue, go to the God-burning God dynasty and talk to them about purchasing demonic corpses. The more the better." Wang Xian instructed Prime Minister Gue. "Yes." Prime Minister Gue nodded his head. "We have to increase the strength of the Dragon Palace as soon as possible." Wang Xian's eyes flickered. Currently, the Dragon Palace lacked experts at the peak of the godly state. They had to add a member at the peak of the godly state as soon as possible. Be it him or Ao Qitian and Ao Xingmu, one of them had to be in charge. Otherwise, the Dragon Palace would always be at a disadvantage when facing the Northern Expedition Trading Company. If I don't encounter peak stage immortal level demonic beasts in the future, I can obtain enough demonic beasts corpses to form a peak stage immortal level member. He calculated in his heart. This time, more than 100 immortal level corpses would be able to greatly increase the strength of the Dragon Palace. Wang Xian decided to mainly increase the strength of the immortal level members to 3 or 4 wisps of divine fire. In this way, the members of the Dragon Palace could also deal with a large number of immortal level experts with 5 or 6 wisps of divine fire. In the next few days, all the members of the Dragon Palace were improving. The ordinary demonic corpses allowed the members of the Dragon Palace to produce more than 10 members at the peak of the immortal level. The peak of the immortal level, coupled with the ability to fight above one's level, was comparable to a wisp of divine fire. The rest of the corpses also improved the Dragon Palace greatly. Dragon King, we've discussed with the God-burning God dynasty, the demonic god sect, and some other forces. This time we're going to buy 20 demonic corpses, 2 of which have 9 wisps of godly fire. We've also bought a lot of demonic corpses below the godly state. We've basically spent all of our spiritual stones. On the 5th day, Prime Minister Jianghu came to report. Very good. 20 demonic corpses and 9 wisps of divine fire. This is enough to give birth to a member with 9 wisps of divine fire in our Dragon Palace. Wuxia smiled. Dragon King, the Northern Expedition Trading Company has a lot of opinions about us snatching their business away. I'm afraid they will do us a disservice. Prime Minister Gue hesitated for a moment before reporting to him. It's possible. Wuxia nodded. After all, the price offered by the Dragon Palace was higher than the market price in order to purchase the demonic corpses. Naturally, this would affect the interests of the Northern Expedition Trading Company. We can't care too much at this moment. The demonic corpses will attack us at an unknown time. All the demonic corpses that we will obtain next will be used to upgrade a member of the Dragon Palace. Wuxia made up his mind. Only with a powerhouse at the peak of the godly state could the Dragon Palace not be afraid of the Northern Expedition Trading Company. Prime Minister Gue nodded. However, what happened next was beyond the expectations of all the forces. 10 days had passed and the Forest of Darkness was still as calm as ever. There were no more Yaoxia's attacks. There was no movement in front of them either. Chapter 2115. 2115 sent a message. Vice President, our trading company has received news that Eternal Shocking Thunder has encountered a terrifying demonic attack. 5 days ago, more than 10 peak deity realm demonic beasts appeared. It said that the mastermind behind the Devil Den has appeared. Even the Thunder God Lord was alerted and attacked. However, the mastermind was only heavily injured by the Thunder God Lord and escaped. There are even rumors that the Thunder God Lord was injured. It seems that the treasures inside Eternal Thunder Treasure Planet have been snatched away by the mastermind behind the Devil Den. The Forest of Darkness was calm and peaceful. In a divine kingdom located in the center, a middle-aged man from the Northern Expedition Trading Company stood in front of the old man and reported the situation. Oh, the mastermind behind the Devil Den has appeared? No wonder we are so calm here. It turns out that it is the treasure planet that attacked Eternal Thunder. The old man of light revealed a surprised expression when he heard the news. Treasure Planet was a treasure planet of Eternal Shocking Thunder. In the entire northern region, Treasure Planet was the most important life planet besides the Thunder God Nation. Even the Thunder God Lord was injured. Phew, luckily they didn't attack us. The old man of light muttered, "This is a good thing for us." Yes, Vice President. Currently, Yaoxia from the Demon Cave is still fighting against the experts from Eternal Shocking Thunder. Our side should be safe. The middle-aged man pondered. In that case, there's no point in staying here. The old man touched the light staff in his hand. We didn't lose much this time, but we didn't gain much either. Vice President, if it weren't for the Dragon Palace buying those Yaoxia's corpses at market prices, we could have made a lot of money. The Dragon Palace is blocking our way of making money. An old man said with a sullen face. The Dragon King of the Dragon Palace is indeed unethical and stupid. He offended so many forces as soon as he arrived. The old man of light smiled coldly. Since there are no more demons from the Demon Cave here, go and inform the Yuhuashan sect and their forces. Tell them that all of their people have been destroyed by the Dragon Palace. He looked at the middle-aged man in front of him and ordered indifferently. Oh, it's the Vice President. The middle-aged man raised his eyebrows and immediately nodded. Also, the old man said with a smile, tell them about the strength of the Dragon Palace. Our Northern Expedition Trading Company can prepare some powerful arrays for them. We want 1/3 of the spoils of war from the Dragon Palace. 1/3. Will they agree? The middle-aged man was slightly surprised and asked in surprise. Don't worry. Without the help of our arrays, even if they can destroy the Dragon Palace, they will suffer heavy losses. Yuhua Divine Sect knows what to do. Go and talk to them according to my instructions. The old man said indifferently. Yes, Vice President. The middle-aged man bowed and nodded. Haha, Vice President, this move of yours is really amazing. No wonder you didn't feel the slightest bit of anger after learning that Yaoxia's corpse had been obtained by the Dragon Palace. The middle-aged man next to him said with a face full of flattery. Hehe, Yuan Long, we are businessmen. We focus on doing business. We hand over the fighting and killing to others. the old man of light taught him. Thank you for your guidance, Vice President. Yuan Long will definitely remember it. The middle-aged man immediately stood up and bowed. The old man laughed heartily and his figure slowly disappeared. Rule for a while. We will return in 2 days and have the Yu Huashan divine sect and the others prepare for the welcoming ceremony. A light voice entered the middle-aged man's ears. The middle-aged man moved and left immediately. With the speed of gods, it would not take long for them to reach Jianghu planet from the forest of darkness. The middle-aged man came to the void of Jianghu planet and scanned his surroundings. There were basically many factions that had gods guarding the planet. As one of the 5 governors, the Yu Huashan sect naturally had people guarding the planet. The middle-aged man moved and flew towards the planet the Yu Huatian sect occupied. The Northern Expedition Trading Company has come to inform everyone of the Yu Huatian sect. He looked down at the palace with a faint smile and lightly snorted. Oh, friends of the Northern Expedition Trading Company, please come in quickly. An old man's voice rang out as a staircase led the way. This time, I have an important matter regarding the front line that I wish to inform everyone in the Yu Huashan sect. The middle-aged man entered a luxurious palace. The old man inside gestured at him, and a maid immediately poured him a cup of tea. Oh, we haven't been able to contact our Yu Huashan sect's Grand Elder in the past few days. Is there a problem with the front line? The old man's gaze focused as he asked with a frown. There's no problem at the front line, but there's a problem with your Yu Huatian sect. The middle-aged man took a sip of tea. What? The old man suddenly stood up and stared at the middle-aged man from the Northern Expedition Trading Company. All of your Yu Huatian sect members have been exterminated by the Dragon Palace. What? The old man's face flushed red as shock appeared on his face. It's best if you inform the sect master of the Yu Huashan sect about this matter. Also, ask the sect master to confirm it so that he won't think that I'm lying to you. The middle-aged man said to him. Who? The old man's breathing quickened as he had a bad premonition. In the past few days they had not contacted the Grand Elder and the others. At first he did not pay much attention to it. After all, if there was anything, the Northern Expedition Trading Company would have notified them long ago. But now he had actually received news of the Grand Elder's destruction. This was 1/5 of the entire Yu Hua divine sect's deities, especially the Grand Elder, a sect guardian expert. I'll immediately contact the sect master. The old man's expression changed drastically, and he immediately took out his communication stone plate. Time slowly passed. After an hour, terrifying figures flew over. The leader was a thin and weak middle-aged man. He wore a water blue hat and a water blue robe. He held a long sword in his hand and was dressed like a carefree swordsman. However, when he charged over, his face was filled with ice-cold killing intent. Greetings, Sect Master Yu Hua. The middle-aged man from the Northern Expedition Trading Company respectfully greeted the middle-aged man. Tell me everything about the front lines. The thin middle-aged man directly sat on the chair in the center, closed his eyes and coldly said. He did not care about the thin middle-aged man's unreasonable words, and the middle-aged man from the Northern Expedition Trading Company reported everything. This included the strength of the Dragon Palace, as well as the fact that the Northern Expedition Trading Company was prepared to sponsor and support 2 9-wisps of divine fire-level arrays. Waves of terrifying killing intent brewed within the palace, and a faint rain mist enveloped the entire planet. The middle-aged man from the Northern Expedition Trading Company looked at the thin middle-aged man in shock, and his heart was filled with even more reverence. Your Northern Expedition Trading Company really knows how to do business, but I, Rain Demon Sword God, will do this business. The middle-aged man from the Northern Expedition Trading Company spoke for 20 minutes before Sect Master Yu Hua finally spoke. Rain Demon Sword God. This title was the Northern Region's title for the Sect Master of the Yu Hua Divine Sect. Chapter 2116. 2116 Ambushed. In the boundless star field, those who could get a title were all powerful experts. Apart from the 5 eternal god lords, the rest of the people who could get a title were mostly peak deity realm experts. The main reason why the sect master of the Yu Hua divine sect could get a title and have his own title with the strength of 9 wisps of divine fire was because of one of his battle achievements. He had once killed an injured peak divine realm expert, even if it was an injured peak divine realm expert. That was the strongest existence below the eternal God Lord. Ever since then, the name of Rain Demon Sword God had resounded throughout the entire northern region. He had similarly established the throne of the fourth largest faction in the northern region. Sect Master Yu Hua, all the frontline personnel will return in 2 days. Tomorrow we will send you an array formation. 2 9-wisp divine fire array formations. Unless we use more 9-wisp divine fire gods to break them, we can only wait for death. The middle-aged man from the Northern Expedition Trading Company stood up and cupped his hands at Rain Demon Sword God. Rain Demon Sword God nodded indifferently and watched the old man leave. Sect Master, could there be something? The old man said with a frown when he saw him leave. I've already confirmed the news from the Northern Expedition Trading Company. Go and inform the factions that are following us to send all their forces. They dare to kill our Yu Huatian sect's disciples and experts. I want their blood to condense into a river. Rain Demon Sword God sat there, his entire body cold. Water droplets floated around him. Each water droplet contained an icy aura, like an ice sword. It's the sect leader. 2 days later we are here to welcome them. The middle-aged man said coldly. Dragon King, the Northern Expedition Trading Company has sent us a message. We will retreat in 2 days. At the same time, Prime Minister Gui came to report in front of the Dragon Palace's Dragon Transformation Pool. Retreat? It seems like they have received some news. We are preparing to retreat in 2 days. Wang Xian nodded his head. The Northern Expedition Trading Company was the strongest force in the northern region besides Eternal Thunderclap. They had been stationed in the northern region for hundreds of thousands of years. Their information channels were not something that the Dragon Palace could compare to. It had been 10 days since the demonic cave had attacked. They must have received some news. Wang Xian looked into the dragon transformation pool and smiled. At this moment, Ao Qitian, Ao Qi, and Ao Xingmu were entrenched in the dragon transformation pool. Their bodies contained waves of terrifying dragon might. The entire dragon blood in the dragon transformation pool seeped into the top of their heads. I thought I could only add 2 more members with 9 wisps of divine fire. After spending all the spiritual stones to buy the demonic corpse, the Dragon Palace will have 1 more member with 9 wisps of divine fire. Wang Xian looked at the 3 of them with a satisfied expression. This time around, the Dragon Palace had added 3 more members with 9 wisps of divine fire. Apart from that, the combat strength of 1 wisp of divine fire had increased by about 20. The rest of the members of the Dragon Palace had improved significantly, especially the members of the Dragon Palace who had lit the divine fire. All the forces have returned. 2 days later, a voice was heard throughout the forest of darkness. Wang Xian recalled the Dragon Palace and the 10,000 members of the Dragon Palace followed behind him. The difference was that Wang Xian was sitting on a dragon throne. 9 wind dragons were pulling the dragon throne while the rest of the members of the Dragon Palace followed behind him. Roar! 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 Roars were emitted from the wind dragons and shook the area within a few million kilometers. There are 9 more godly state members in the Dragon Palace. The strength of the Dragon Palace is so strong. What are those 9 creatures? Why do they look like the legendary godly dragons? It is said that the divine dragons have perished. They should be creatures with the bloodline of the divine dragons. There are at least 80 godly state experts in the Dragon Palace. In the surrounding area, when the Northern Expedition Trading Company, the God-Burning Dynasty, the Enchanting Divine Sect, and the rest of the forces saw the 9 wind divine dragons that were pulling Wang Xian along, shock appeared on their faces. They were all filled with solemnity and fear. The 80 godly state experts shocked them. The potential of the Dragon Palace was too strong. No wonder they are so tough. No wonder they dare to ignore the Yu Huashan sect and the other factions. Some of the experts frowned and muttered. With the strength of the Dragon Palace, there were not many factions in the entire northern region that dared to provoke them. These 9 creatures seem to be extraordinary. Do they have a trace of the bloodline of the divine dragons? Not bad. When the time comes, we will study the corpse of this creature. The Elder of Light swept his gaze over and revealed a faint smile. Let's go back. With a soft shout, everyone immediately flew towards Tianmu planet. Wang Xian sat on the dragon throne and listened to the exclamations around him indifferently. The reason why he revealed the divine wind dragons and the rest without any scruples was that the Dragon Palace had hidden a lot of power. Even if he revealed 9 more divine wind dragons, the Dragon Palace wouldn't mind. Did they really think that this was the full power of the Dragon Palace and that they would pay a heavy price? The 9 divine dragons held onto a throne. Even the bright elder from the Northern Expedition Trading Company looked at them with envy. To be able to hold onto a throne with 9 divine beasts, the only thing that could be done in the entire northern region was eternal thunderclap. Everyone flew toward Jianghu planet in a mighty manner. It was different from when they came. There were less than 1.5 million people. Why are there so many experts here all of a sudden? And it seems like there are many experts from the Yuhuatian sect. That seems to be the sect master of the Yuhuatian sect, Sword God Rain Demon. There seems to be experts from various factions following the Yuhuatian sect around. There are so many deity realm experts. Why are they here all of a sudden? Did something happen? Just as the forces of the Northern Territory Alliance were returning, a group of forces led by the Yuhuashan sect floated in the void in front of Tianmu planet. They were setting up array formations in the void. On the planet, some people were looking at the scene in shock and bewilderment, their faces filled with curiosity. 10 minutes later, all the expert disciples led by Rain Devil Sword God landed on the planet of the Yuhuashan sect. The God Realm experts from the surrounding factions who had stayed here immediately spread the news. Yuhuatian Divine Sect? It seems that they have received the news. This is going to be interesting. In the void along the way, the factions who had received the news revealed mocking expressions on their faces. They swept their gaze in the direction of the Dragon Palace and looked at the Dragon King who was sitting on the dragon throne with slight envy. The corners of their lips curled up slightly. There's a good show to watch. Now that there's no threat from the demonic nest, the fiercer they fight, the more advantageous it will be for us. Some of the powerhouses who received the news revealed smiles on their faces. None of the factions informed the Dragon Palace. Even if the Dragon Palace had purchased many demonic corpses from them, they were still happy to see it. They were happy to see the Dragon Palace and the Yuhuashan sect fighting. Wang Xian sensed some strange gazes and raised his eyebrows slightly. A hint of doubt flashed in his eyes. He looked forward and saw Tianmu planet. Buzz. At this moment the surrounding space began to change. Wang Xian's expression changed slightly. Let's watch the show, haha. The top-notch experts from the Northern Expeditions Trading Company, God Burning Empire, saw this scene and said with a smile. Chapter 2117 2117 Dragon Extermination Palace. What happened? When the top experts laughed and flew to the side, the disciples of the Northern Alliance were slightly shocked. Look at the Dragon Palace, they seem to have entered the array formation. A young man looked over and couldn't help but exclaim. Disciples of the Northern Expedition Trading Company, move aside, don't be affected. A middle-aged man said indifferently to the disciples behind him. Hua. Hearing the middle-aged man's words, everyone retreated to the side with faces full of surprise. Boom. At this moment, they sensed a majestic aura coming from the direction of Tianmu planet, and a towering killing intent rushed toward the void. All the disciples were shocked and quickly looked over. What happened? Some uninformed godly state experts' expressions changed slightly as they growled in low voices. The Yuhuashan sect is here for revenge. A godly state expert said indifferently as he looked at all the members of the Dragon Palace who were trapped inside the array formation. That's Yuhuashan sect master, Sword God Rain Demon. He's here personally. All the experts and disciples from all the forces of the Yuhuashan sect are here. Oh my god, look. All of them are at the deity realm. They're here for revenge. They've set up an array formation in the void in advance to ambush the Dragon Palace. At this moment, everyone's expressions changed when they saw the Yuhuashan sect master and the group of gods flying over. So they set up the array formation in the void to wait for the Dragon Palace to arrive. They want to destroy the Dragon Palace? Some of the disciples on Tianmu planet were unaware of what was happening at the front line. They were shocked when they saw this scene. Surround them all. We will not let the Dragon Palace escape alone today. They dared to kill the experts and disciples of our Yuhuashan sect. I want this void to become their graveyard. A cold voice came out of Sword God Rain Demon's mouth as he unsheathed his long sword, His killing intent soared to the sky. Kill my celestial dynasty's disciples. Die. I want to kill all of them. I want to slaughter all the planets they are on. The experts around Sword God Rain Demon said in a violent and cold voice. Their slightly reddened eyes stared at the people from the Dragon Palace who were enveloped by the array formation. They were filled with hatred. When they learned that the Dragon Palace had destroyed their sect and all the disciples and experts of the Divine Dynasty, they almost went berserk. Those were their elite disciples and experts. They swore to kill all the people of the Dragon Palace. Cold killing intent gathered in the void. All the other forces of the Northern Territory Alliance retreated more than 10,000 kilometers as they stared in their direction. 120. The Yu Huashan sect sent 120 gods. This is too terrifying. Some people's expressions changed slightly as they looked at the vast figures. A total of 120 gods. This was an extremely large number. Not only that, but there's also that terrifying array formation. Now, everyone from the Dragon Palace is trapped in the array formation. This time, the Dragon Palace is going to be finished. The Yu Huatian Divine Sect is fully prepared. They are already stronger than the Dragon Palace. This time, the Dragon Palace is doomed. Looking at this unsolvable scene, everyone could already imagine what would happen to the Dragon Palace. The Dragon Palace was stronger. There were 80 godly state experts, but the Yu Huatian Divine Sect was stronger. A total of 120 were led by the Rain Demon Sword God. Furthermore, the Dragon Palace was still trapped in the array formation. They would definitely die. Seeing the Yu Huatian Divine Sect taking revenge, everyone felt a chill in their hearts. Today's battle would definitely shake the entire northern region. Yu Huatian Divine Sect. Wang Xian, who was inside the array formation, saw the 120 godly state experts of the Yu Huatian Divine Sect and the 2 million disciples around them. His eyes were sparkling. The dragon eyes of the yin-yang 5 elements swept to the side. When he saw the expressions of the Northern Expedition Trading Company, the God-Burning Dynasty, and the Enchanting Divine Sect who were watching the show, he was slightly enlightened. They already knew about the ambush this time. It was even possible that some factions among them had participated in it. Die. Blood shall be repaid in blood. Heavenly ice rain formation, heavenly lightning strike the formation. At this moment, Sword God Rain Demon, who was floating in the void with 120 godly state experts and 2 million disciples, held the formation compass in his hand. A bloodthirsty look appeared on his face. The array was activated. Raindrops killed. Thunderbolts destroyed the world. Splash. Boom, boom, boom. The moment the array was activated, the sound of rain and thunder echoed in unison, covering an area of 5,000 kilometers. There are 9 divine fire array formations, and there are 2 of them. When the surrounding millions of people saw this scene, they were extremely astonished. This time, the Yu Huatian Divine Sect could be said to be fully prepared. Ichim's Yu Huashan Sect, since you dare to set up an ambush here, I shall destroy all of you. Wang Xian raised his head and scanned his surroundings. He snorted coldly. Divine Kingdom Dragon Palace. Wang Xian let out a soft roar and the Dragon Palace slowly appeared behind him. Buzz. The moment the Dragon Palace appeared, the pillar of the Dragon Palace, the ocean-pacifying Divine Needle, emitted a ray of light. The dense raindrops, which looked like bombs, floated in the air without moving. Is it the power of lightning? How dare you use the lightning array formation to fight against the Dragon Palace? You are overestimating yourself. Ao Qi Tian Ao Xingmu, and all the gods of the Dragon Palace walked out of the Dragon Palace. Ao Qi raised his head and saw the terrifying bolts of lightning about to fall. A blood-red bolt of lightning shot out of his eyes. Crack, crack, crack. He raised his arm high and his arm that was like a hammer was raised. Boom, boom, boom. The endless power of lightning within a radius of several thousand kilometers fell towards the arm that was like a hammer and entered his body. This scene was a world-dazzling lightning. Break for me. Ao Qi let out a wild roar. The lightning that entered his body suddenly erupted and struck forward. Boom. A terrifying explosion sounded. The lightning that contained destructive power landed on the formation. The 2 formations with 9 wisps of divine fire began to tremble violently. Buzz. At this moment, Wang Xian slowly stood up from the dragon throne. The 5 elements millstone spun in the sky. He waved his arm and the 5 elements millstone spun slowly and crashed directly into the formation. Boom. There was another boom. The entire void within a radius of several thousand kilometers seemed to tremble. The space formed by the formation collapsed slowly. The appearance of the Dragon Palace, Aochi's attack, and Wang Xian's attack caused the 2-9 divine fire formations to collapse instantly. What? At the front, everyone from the Yu Huatian divine sect saw the formation being broken and their faces sank instantly. They have 2 gods of 9 divine flames. The elder beside Sword God Rain Demon couldn't help but let out a low roar. His expression was slightly awkward and solemn. Oh, the Dragon Palace actually broke 2 arrays of 9 divine flames. The surrounding Northern Expedition Trading Company's Elder of Light frowned slightly when he saw this scene. His face was filled with astonishment. No one expected that the Dragon Palace would be able to break 2 9-wisp array formations so easily. Ambush? You want to destroy our Dragon Palace? Wang Xian stood proudly in front of the Dragon Throne and stared at the 7 or 8 forces of the Yu Huatian divine sect. What was there to be afraid of? Chapter 2118. 2118 The Battle of 2118's Rise. The Dragon Palace is so powerful. They actually broke 2 9-wisp divine fire arrays. The creature with a thunder hammer and a thunder spear is also a 9-wisp divine fire god. In the void in front of Tianmu planet, all the disciples of the Northern Territory Alliance watched the battle. When they saw the Dragon Palace break 2 9-wisp divine fire arrays easily, everyone was shocked. Especially when there was a god of 9-wisp divine fire hidden in the Dragon Palace, it was beyond everyone's expectations. Your Yu Huatian sect is really something. The Supreme Elder ambushed me, and you guys are also here to ambush me. You guys don't have the qualifications to destroy my Dragon Palace. Wang Xian stood in front of the Dragon Throne and stared at the Rain Demon Sword God in the middle with a cold expression. No wonder you dared to kill the disciples and experts of the Yu Huatian divine sect. It turns out that there are 2 gods with 9 wisps of divine fire. The Rain Demon Sword God's cold voice resounded in the void. He held a water-blue sharp sword in his hand. Droplets of water were flowing on the sword. He stood in the void like a sharp sword that carried the power of the ocean. Sect Master Yuhua, there are 2 9-wisp divine fire gods on the other side. If they fight, we won't be able to defend against the other 9-wisp divine fire god. An old man standing beside him said in a low voice with a slightly gloomy expression. I, Rain Devil Sword God, have once killed a peak deity. 2 9-wisp divine fire gods are still not enough. Rain Devil Sword God's face revealed a ghastly expression when he heard his words. Leave the 2 gods with 9 wisps of divine fire to me. Kill the rest of them. The Rain Demon Sword God swept his gaze across the surrounding crowd. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In the next moment, the long sword in his hand was pointed at Wang Xian's position. Drops of rain fell slowly from the void. The raindrops covered Wang Xian and Aochi tightly. Each raindrop was like a condensed missile, containing a terrifying offensive power. 1 person against 2 of us. You might not have the ability to do so. Crush. Wang Xian's body trembled as the incipient saint wings appeared on his back. The incipient saint wings, which were shrouded in brilliance, were filled with mystery and holiness. Coupled with a pair of dragon horns, Wang Xian looked like a deity from beyond the heavens. A powerful aura shook as a terrifying aura charged towards the Rain Demon Sword God. It was a tit-for-tat fight. Everyone could feel the frozen atmosphere in the air. The strength of the Dragon Palace is truly unexpected. However, Rain Demon Sword God's strength is very terrifying. He can completely resist 2 9-wisps of divine fire god. Without the array formation there will be a fierce battle. Even if the Yu Huatian divine sect wins, they will lose many gods. The bright elder from the Northern Expedition Trading Company smiled when he saw this scene. Once the Rain Demon Sword God is able to tie down the Dragon King and the other 9 wisps of divine fire god, then the Dragon Palace should be destroyed in the end. After all, there is a huge difference in the number of godly state experts unless their quality completely surpasses them. The middle-aged man nodded in agreement. Their losses have nothing to do with us. There is a possibility that we will gain even more. The old man of light muttered as he floated leisurely in the air. The eyes of all the surrounding factions flickered as they stared at him. There were even some factions who were hesitating. If both sides suffered heavy losses, would they want the mantis to chase after the cicada and the oriole to catch the oriole? Kill. Destroy the dragon palace today. Leave no one alive. At this moment, a voice filled with killing intent rang out. Dragon King and you, come and face your death. There are swords hidden in the water. The rain demon sword god locked onto Wang Xian and Aoqi. With a move, 2 10-meter-long raindrops with sharp swords hidden within them attacked them. Hee, you think you can challenge the two of us? I alone am enough. Disciples of the Dragon Palace, destroy them. A cold smile appeared on Wang Xian's face. He moved his body and the 5 elements millstone appeared in front of him. Bus. On the 5 elements millstone, the 2 divine dragons roared and spewed out destructive energy that collided with the hidden sword in the water. Boom. In the void, the sound of an explosion was heard. This explosion was like a signal for battle. Kill them. We have more than 100 godly state experts. We can completely destroy them. An elder of the Yu Huashan sect roared. His blood-red eyes stared at the members of the Dragon Palace. They had 120 deities and 2 million disciples. Exterminating the Dragon Palace wouldn't be difficult. Kill. Avenge our senior and junior brothers. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, the Yu Huashan sect began to move. The entire void changed. The gap is quite big. The Yu Huashan sect has 7 or 8 factions, and there are already 7 or 8 gods with just 8 wisps of divine fire. On the other hand, the Dragon Palace only has a few. A fierce battle is about to begin. Everyone held their breaths and stared in shock when they saw the war break out. Disciples of the Dragon Palace, welcome the battle and kill the enemy. Prime Minister Gue stood in front of the Dragon Palace and ordered immediately. Over 20,000 members of the Dragon Palace were floating in front of the Dragon Palace. Ao Qitian turned the ocean-pacifying needle in his hand and his eyes were full of fighting spirit. Rain Sword Sky Demon, 1 sword strike to kill. At this moment, Rain Demon Sword God's attack came. His attack covered the entire Dragon Palace. There were countless water swords in the water droplets that were thousands of meters in size. There were more than 100,000 water droplets. One move covered an area of 5,000 kilometers. What a terrifying move. To think that it covered such a wide area. One move can kill all living beings. When everyone around saw this move, they were shocked. Even those experts at the peak of the godly state had their eyes flashing. Yin and Yang extremes block. Wang Xian had a solemn expression on his face. As expected of the Rain Demon Sword God, he was indeed not someone that ordinary 9 wisps of divine fire could compare to. He moved his palm and a Yin and Yang extremes diagram appeared in his hand. The Tai Chi revolved and his palm rippled. A Tai Chi diagram immediately split into over 100,000 and went straight for the hidden sword in the water droplets. Boom, boom, boom. The terrifying explosions and attacks made the experts from the Yu Huashan Divine Sect and the Dragon Palace afraid to make a move. The Yin and Yang poles completely blocked this move of his, 1 sword strike to kill all living beings. The Rain Demon Sword God was slightly stunned when he saw that Wang Xian had blocked this attack. Interesting, but it's still not enough. The Rain Demon Sword God moved his body and flew up to a height of 100 kilometers like a stream of water. He waved the long sword in his hand and attacked Wang Xian and Ao Qi again. Slaughter begin. Wang Xian had a grim expression on his face. The 5 elements grinding mill flew toward the sky to block his 2 swords. He could handle the god of sword Rain Demon alone. Kill? When the members of the Dragon Palace saw Wang Xian flying to a higher height in the air, more than 20,000 disciples charged toward the Yu Huashan sect. Chapter 2119. 2119 was violent, had branches and was undefeatable. How dare more than 20,000 people charge at us? Kill. Kill? When all the Yu Huashan sect disciples saw the 20,000 plus members of the Dragon Palace charge at them, their faces turned ice cold. More than 2 million people against more than 20,000 people. Even though the quality of the Dragon Palace disciples was much higher, they were not afraid. The difference in numbers was too great. The disciples were full of confidence in destroying the Dragon Palace. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, the godly state experts at the front of the Yu Hua Divine Sect started to move. especially the 8 gods with 8 wisps of divine fire. They raised the weapons in their hands, and terrifying energy completely enveloped all the members of the Dragon Palace. Burning sky. One slash to break the stars. Ice flame. Streams of terrifying energy attacked the Dragon Palace. The number isn't equal. The god of the 9 divine flames hasn't made his move yet. If Sword God Ruoyu can't force him to make his move, Yuhuashan sect will suffer a great loss. All the surrounding forces discussed this scene. Let me do it. Aochi moved when he saw the terrifying attacks of the 8 wisps of divine fire. He raised the thunder hammer in his hand and smashed it heavily into the void. Buzz. However, what shocked Aochi was that raindrops suddenly appeared around him. These raindrops quickly formed a water barrier around him, sealing Aochi inside. The blood-red energy landed on the water barrier, but it was completely blocked. Haha, a drop of water can turn into a sea of stars. Do you think I, Rain Devil Sword God, called my name for nothing? Wild laughter came from above. Aochi was slightly shocked. He looked up and met the Rain Devil Sword God's teasing gaze. When he met the Rain Devil Sword God's gaze, he was slightly shocked. As expected of the leader of a faction. Aochi said coldly. He was actually able to trap Aochi. Indeed, it is difficult to live up to his reputation. Wang Xian looked at the Rain Demon Sword God in front of him and was slightly surprised. As expected of the Rain Demon Sword God. When the raindrops fell just now, he was already prepared. The 9 wisps of divine fire god from the Dragon Palace would be trapped for at least a while. That raindrop should be one of Rain Devil Sword God's divine artifacts, the Rain Transformation World. Now the Dragon Palace will be in trouble. Without the 9 wisps of divine fire god, it will be very difficult to defend against the attack of the Yuhuashan sect. Is this the strength of Rain Devil Sword God? He can easily tie down 2 9 wisps of divine fire god. Shocked voices rang out one after another. Everyone stared at Rain Devil Sword God in awe. Ha ha ha. A group of gods with 8 wisps of divine fire from the Yuhuatian sect laughed maniacally when they saw this scene. They stared at the attacks they released with malevolence. This attack of theirs could wipe out at least half of the people from the Dragon Palace. Some people looked over and saw the terrifying attack. They felt a moment of silence for the Dragon Palace. This time the Dragon Palace was completely defeated. After all, it was an old force with a terrifying foundation. Thousands of spells I'll sweep with my staff. Just when everyone thought that the Dragon Palace was about to suffer heavy losses, a violent voice resounded through the sky and earth. In front of the 8 spells released by the divine flames, a staff that seemed to be dyed red with blood appeared. The staff was 100,000 meters long. Under the augmentation of energy, it was tens of millions of kilometers long. Everyone felt a terrifying gust of wind sweep across a radius of 10 million kilometers. The 8 divine flames released by the staff were all reduced to ashes. The terrifying shockwave attacked the 2 million or so disciples of the Yuhuashan sect. What? They still have the god of 9 divine flames. Oh no. At this moment, when the 8 divine flames saw the terrifying staff, their expressions changed drastically. Weeping willow in the void. Strike the gods. Destroy the souls. Walala. Suddenly another sound rang out. Above the 2 million plus Yuhuatian sect disciples, sharp branches appeared out of thin air. Each branch exuded a power that made one's heart palpitate. The branches swayed as they attacked the 2 million plus Yuhuatian sect disciples below. Careful, careful, attack the branches above. The terrifying thorny branches in the sky made everyone from the Yuhuashan sect panic. Some experts immediately roared. The branches that blotted out the sky fell down like poisonous snakes, causing everyone to panic. Boom, boom, boom. The 2 million disciples raised their heads in shock. They did not dare to hesitate as they unleashed their strongest attacks. In an instant, countless attacks landed on the weeping willow in the sky. This scene was extremely shocking. The 4th god of the 9 wisps of divine fire. Some forces looked at the weeping willow that covered the sky with shocked expressions. The god-level experts immediately sensed that this was the attack of the 9 wisps of divine fire. Otherwise it would not be able to cover such a wide area. In addition to the Dragon King, the Trapped, and the staff-wielding experts, the 4th god of 9 wisps of divine fire used brambles. The 4 gods of 9 wisps of divine fire had exceeded everyone's expectations. Even the demonic god sect of the Northern Expedition Trading Company's god-burning god dynasty had a grave expression on their faces. Kill? In front of the Dragon Palace, Prime Minister Gui's orders rang out. All the experts and disciples of the Dragon Palace rushed forward when the Yu Huashan divine sect was attacked by the Ao Xingmu brambles. At the very front, more than 90 figures were exuding a majestic aura. The leader Ao Qitian was 5,000 meters tall. He held a cudgel that was wrapped in blood-red chains and was exuding a monstrous demonic aura. More than 90 gods, close to 100 gods. The Dragon Palace used to hide their strength, but they actually have close to 100 gods. Hiss, heavens, how can there be so many gods? Why haven't I heard of the Dragon Palace before? When the millions of people around felt such terrifying power, everyone's expressions changed drastically. Close to 80 deity realm experts had already shocked everyone, but now the Dragon Palace's true strength had reached close to 100. As the Northern Alliance's strongest force, the Northern Expedition Trading Company only had around 40 deity realm experts. The difference was too great. With the Dragon Palace's strength, the Yu Huatian divine sect might. When the bright elder of the Northern Expedition Trading Company saw this scene, his expression turned slightly ugly. The Dragon Palace's strength had completely exceeded his expectations. Especially the violent demon monkeys and the branches that filled the sky. To the Yu Huatian divine sect, there was no solution at all. We'll have to rely on that rain demon sword god. If he can't kill 4 people of the same level by himself, the Yu Huatian divine sect will definitely perish. Damn it, where did this Dragon Palace come from? The old man muttered with a gloomy face. Such a powerful Dragon Palace had completely exceeded his expectations. Not only him but the millions of people around him were also smacked in the face. The violent demon monkeys and the branches that filled the sky were simply unsolvable. Chapter 21:20. 21:20 was furious, and the branches were unbreakable. Not good. Block the front. Block the experts of the Dragon Palace. When Yu Huashan sect saw the experts of the Dragon Palace attacking, their expressions changed drastically. Their eyes were filled with fear, and their expressions were extremely ugly. A god with 9 wisps of divine fire released a sky full of branches, and if they were not careful they would be killed by the branches. Facing the god with 9 wisps of divine fire, everyone had to be alert. However, at this time, more than 20,000 members of the Dragon Palace and nearly 100 godly state experts attacked under the leadership of the second god with 9 wisps of divine fire. How could they resist? Just 2 gods with 9 wisps of divine fire could kill them all. At this moment, the hearts of more than 2 million people of the Yu Huatian divine sect were beating violently. Boom. However, before they could react, Ao Qitian's rod had already swept over. Oh no. The faces of the gods from the Yu Huatian sect who were at the forefront changed drastically. Use your divine kingdom to block the brambles above. A god with 8 wisps of divine fire hurriedly shouted. In an instant, the bodies of the 120 god realm experts trembled, and their divine kingdoms directly appeared in the sky above the Yu Huatian sect. One divine kingdom after another appeared in the sky above the Yu Huatian divine sect, and an incomparably powerful divine light enveloped an area of 10 million kilometers. The hundreds of divine kingdoms looked abnormally spectacular and shocking. More than 100 divine kingdoms blocked Ao Xingmu's thorny attack. Boom. But at this moment, the terrifying blood-red chain-covered cudgel swept over from the front. It carried an incomparably terrifying wave of air as it swept towards the Yu Hua divine sect. Boom. The gods' expressions changed slightly. They used all of their strength to block the terrifying staff. Boom. 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 In an instant, over 20 gods were sent flying. They spat out a large amount of blood and over a dozen died on the spot. Over 100,000 demigod disciples died under the impact of the wave of air. This was caused by the fact that the 120 gods had blocked most of the attacks. Hiss. Everyone from the Yu Huashan sect was shocked when they saw this. The group of god-level experts held their weapons tightly as their bodies trembled. You are the ones who will die if you want to destroy our Dragon Palace. Less than a second later, the group of experts from the Dragon Palace followed closely behind. Defend. All the God Realm experts from the Yu Huashan divine sect shouted again. 4 gods with 9 divine flames. Damn it, didn't the Northern Expedition Trading Company say they only had one? In the sky, Rain Demon Sword God's expression instantly turned ugly when he saw the miserable screams of the disciples below. His gaze swept toward the Northern Expedition Trading Company, his eyes filled with cold killing intent. Hold on for 3 minutes. In 3 minutes I will kill them and then get rid of the other 3. The Rain Demon Sword God shouted with confidence. He stared at Wang Xian and stabbed the rain sword in his hand toward Wang Xian. Rain Demon Sword, 1 strike to kill the god. A low roar came out from his mouth. An incomparably bright and sharp sword attacked Wang Xian. A sword was surrounded by raindrops. It was only 10 meters in size, but the energy it contained was terrifying. The Rain Demon Sword God is so confident. He actually has the confidence to kill the Dragon King in 3 minutes. When everyone around heard the Rain Demon Sword God's voice, their expressions changed slightly. They were shocked by his confidence. Killing a person of the same level in 3 minutes? I wonder how he did it. Some people thought to themselves. Not good. The Rain Demon Sword God thought that our Northern Expedition Trading Company was deliberately setting them up. This is a little. The bright elder of the Northern Expedition Trading Company sensed the expression of the Rain Demon Sword God. He raised his eyebrows slightly and muttered to himself as he calculated in his heart. Kill me in 3 minutes. When Wang Xian heard the words of the Rain Demon Sword God, a cold smile appeared on his face. Then I would like to experience your strength. As Wang Xian spoke, his gaze was fixed on the 10-meter-long god-slaying sword. He flapped his wings slightly. But when the god-slaying sword was about 10,000 meters away from Wang Xian, he moved slightly and dodged to the side. Whoosh. However, under the control of the Rain Demon Sword God, the sharp sword continued to pursue Wang Xian. The speed is a little slow. Wang Xian had a mocking expression on his face. When the sword was about to reach him again, he flapped his uninitiated holy wings and easily dodged it, creating a distance of 50 kilometers. What a fast speed. When the god of sword Rain Demon saw that Wang Xian easily dodged the sword's pursuit, his expression changed slightly. With a cold expression, he waved his arm again, and the same 5 swords appeared one after another. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A total of 6 god-slaying swords attacked Wang Xian, wanting to surround him. Let me show you my strength. Wang Xian retracted his uninitiated holy wings and attacked the god of sword Rain Demon directly. With a move of his arm, the dragon blood sword appeared in his hand. You're courting death. With a wave of his arm, 6 god-slaying swords attacked Wang Xian. However, the speed of the sharp swords was nothing to Wang Xian. He shifted his body slightly and easily dodged the attacks of the sharp swords. At the same time, he waved the dragon blood sword in his hand. Streams of sword rays that were destroyed attacked him. This speed. The expression of the god of sword Rain Demon gradually turned ugly. He raised the long sword in his hand and blocked the attacks. When he blocked the attack, the other 6 swords lost control. Torrent. The god of sword Rain Demon easily blocked Wang Xian's attack 3 times in a row. His body was like a torrent. He drew a water blue mark and met Wang Xian head-on. Wang Xian was not afraid at all. The dragon blood sword in his hand was covered by the 7-colored energy. The 7-colored sword ray shone for thousands of miles and slashed down heavily. Bang! The sound of sharp swords clashing could be heard. The 2 of them were evenly matched in their attacks. How is this possible? The raindrop sword in my hand was not damaged after clashing with it. The god of Rain Demon Sword's arm trembled and his expression became increasingly ugly. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, numerous chains were moving along the dragon blood sword towards him. Break it for me. Water can pierce through stone. The raindrop sword in his hand vibrated and the raindrops hit the chains. Buzz. The light of yin and yang flashed across the chains and continued to move towards his long sword. Dragon Claw. At this moment, Wang Xian raised his left hand and used the shape of a dragon claw to cover the Rain Demon Sword God. It was a dragon claw that was at least 1,000 meters in size. The surface of the claw was thick and heavy. The terrifying energy seemed to be indestructible. It directly clawed at Rain Devil Sword God. What terrifying claws! Sensing the surging energy coming from the dragon claw, Rain Devil Sword God's expression completely changed. The opponent's strength was very terrifying. his terrifying speed and terrifying attack methods. If he wanted to kill him, it would be difficult. Thinking of this, his heart sank. Surging torrent, the one who goes against it becomes a god. Rain demon sword god roared, a torrent from the bottom up against the current, forming a strong defense. Chapter 21-21. 21-21-21-21, who will kill who? Boom. A violent collision sound rang out in the void. The faces of the millions of people who had been watching the battle changed slightly when they saw this situation. That Dragon King's strength and speed are so terrifying. Rain Devil Sword God is completely helpless against him. He's passively defending. It's absolutely impossible for Rain Devil Sword God to kill the Dragon King in 3 minutes. His speed is too fast and his attacks are also very terrifying. This Dragon King is not simple. Rain Demon Sword God's words just now were a slap in the face. Looking at the two people in the air who were almost evenly matched, everyone's expression changed again. Rain Demon Sword God's strength and title were created by himself. There was no doubt about his strength. Even when Rain Demon Sword God said that he would kill the Dragon King in 3 minutes, everyone believed him and waited for his great killing move and wonderful performance. However, the result was completely out of their expectations. The Dragon King of the Dragon Palace was not afraid at all and was not weak at all. You want to kill me in 3 minutes? It's not certain who will kill who. Wang Xian's Dragon Claw landed heavily on top of Reverse Flow. Feeling the strong defense, he held the Dragon Claw tightly. Under the Dragon Claw, Reverse Flow slowly retracted. Splash! His body trembled slightly and he retreated backward like flowing water, avoiding Wang Xian's attack. A hint of seriousness appeared on his face. What a fast speed. His speed is not slower than mine. In fact, he is even faster. The eyes of the bright elder from the Northern Expedition Trading Company narrowed slightly when he saw this scene. His expression changed slightly as he frowned slowly. Crack, crack. Break for me. Aochi's roar was heard from the side, accompanied by the sound of breaking. The blood-red energy in his entire body churned around as the 3 Goyu in his pupils rotated slowly. Aochi's strange blood-red pupils locked onto the Rain Demon Sword God in the void. Dragon King, this humble subject is here to help you. Aochi let out a low roar as an explosive thunder sounded beside him. In an instant, his figure disappeared and reappeared beside Wang Xian. His arms, which were like thunder hammers and thunder spears, smashed heavily into the void. Goyu flew out from his eyes and landed on his 2 arms. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, streams of terrifying Goyu blood-red energy attacked the Rain Demon Sword God. 5 elements grinding. Wang Xian smiled when he saw Aochi charging over. Naturally, he had no objections to joining forces to fight against the Rain Demon Sword God. Bang bang bang. The Rain Demon Sword God's expression changed slightly when he saw Aochi's strange attack. He waved the rain sword in his hand and slashed forward. Every time he slashed, his body could not help but take a step back. After he blocked Aochi's attack, he retreated dozens of kilometers. Rain Demon Sword God's breathing was a little hurried, and his face was extremely gloomy. Roar! At this moment, the 5 divine dragons above the enormous 5 elements grinding mill roared, and streams of gray energy covered Rain Demon Sword God. His face changed again. Rain Demon Sword slashed the sky with 1 sword. Rain Demon Sword God roared and his face was extremely ugly. A sharp sword that was hundreds of thousands of meters long appeared, slashing towards the 5 elements grinding mill. Boom! A terrifying collision sound rang out. The sharp sword slashed onto the 5 elements grinding mill, causing it to fly back hundreds of thousands of kilometers. Ah, Sect Masters, save us! At this moment, miserable cries rang out. His breathing was somewhat hurried as his gaze swept downwards. There was a massacre going on down there. It was a one-sided massacre. In the beginning, the 120 godly state experts and 2 million disciples could easily crush the Dragon Palace. However, the situation was completely reversed. The 2 9-wisps of divine fire completely changed the situation of the battle. The sky was filled with branches that hung in the air and kept on reaping lives down there. The violent and terrifying sticks swept across a radius of 1,000,000 miles. The gods of the Yu Huashan sect were dying at a terrifying speed. 3 minutes had passed. Out of the 120 gods, 60 had died. Out of the 2 million disciples, less than 1 million had died. It was a one-sided war. In 10 minutes at most, the Yu Huashan sect would be completely annihilated in this void. Damn it, damn it. The Rain Demon Sword God saw the scene below and his face was burning with rage. He stared at Wang Xian and Ao Qi in a frenzy. Northern Expedition Trading Company, didn't you say that their dragon palace only has one god of 9 wisps of divine fire? Didn't you say there are only 80 god-level powerhouses? All of a sudden, the Rain Demon Sword God turned his head abruptly and stared at the Northern Expedition Trading Company. His blood-red eyes were cold as he roared. What? The sudden change caused the surrounding millions of people to be slightly startled. Some factions' eyes flickered as they looked at the Northern Expedition Trading Company's position. Their faces were filled with astonishment. Bastard! When the old man heard Rain Demon Sword God's sudden question, anger appeared on his face. His expression changed slightly. His words were to drag the Northern Expedition Trading Company into the water. However, after witnessing the Dragon Palace's strength, the Northern Expedition Trading Company could not enter the water so easily. That Dragon King's speed was completely beyond his expectations. Even if he were to make a move himself, it would be very difficult for him to stop him. In addition to the nearly 100 godly state experts, even if the Northern Expedition Trading Company were to suffer a great loss, it would still suffer a great loss. This was not in line with the purpose of their trading company. Our Northern Expedition Trading Company did not ask you to attack the Dragon Palace. Don't speak without evidence and slander us. Don't blame our Northern Expedition Trading Company for not showing any mercy. Sensing the gazes around him, the Elder of Light snorted coldly and threatened coldly. The Rain Demon Sword God stared at the Elder of Light with his slightly red eyes. He clenched his fists tightly and felt extremely aggrieved. Die. All of you die. He roared furiously and attacked Wang Xian and Ao Qi. Dragon King, I'll trap him. Ao Qi shouted loudly and blood-red chains appeared behind him. The dense chains slowly covered a radius of 100 kilometers. All right. Wang Xian nodded his head. With a wave of his arm, the 5 elements millstone appeared above his head. The poles of yin and yang were suspended below him. Search for enemies in the void and trap them. Ao Qi let out a loud roar. The dense blood-red chains wrapped around the Rain Demon Sword God. 5 elements millstone trap. Roar, roar. Wang Xian shouted at the same time. The millstone began to operate. The 3 divine dragons of earth, water and wood attributes shone brightly. Spells filled with restraints were cast towards the Rain Demon Sword God. Wang Xian was confident that no one in the entire universe could withstand an opponent of the same level as the Berserk Dragon. Today I will let you guys see who will kill who. Wang Xian revealed a sinister expression. With the 5 elements grinding on his head, he stepped on the yin and yang poles and dashed towards the Rain Demon Sword God. Chapter 21-22 21-22 2122 annihilated the unexpected intruders. Who would kill who? Millions of people looked at the battlefield in the void, their eyes shining. In this situation the Dragon Palace had the upper hand. At first, the Rain Demon Sword God arrogantly said that he could kill the Dragon King in 3 minutes, but it had become a joke. Facing the Dragon Palace alone, the Rain Demon Sword God couldn't gain any advantage, not to mention that there was an expert from the Dragon Palace. In a 2-on-1 situation, would the Rain Demon Sword God be able to block it? Walala. In the air, countless blood-red chains covered the Rain Demon Sword God. The chains were densely packed and each of them was half a meter thick. If one was completely entangled by so many chains, it would be difficult for one to escape. Wang Xian controlled the 5 elements grinding mill to lock onto the Rain Demon Sword God. The Primalist Saint wings on his back fluttered as he exerted his speed to the maximum. Wang Xian, who was moving at an extreme speed, was completely incomparable to the Rain Demon Sword God. In other words, if Wang Xian wanted to fight him, he wouldn't be able to escape. If Wang Xian wanted to escape, he wouldn't be able to catch up to him. In the battle, Wang Xian was already in an invincible position. Who will kill who? The Rain Demon Sword God growled with an embarrassed expression when he saw Wang Xian and the chains that covered the sky that were attacking him. His cold eyes locked onto Wang Xian completely. The raindrop sword in his hand almost condensed into a stream of water. At this moment he could no longer escape. All he could do was to fight for his life. Kill? He growled in a low voice. Instantly, a torrential rain started to fall within a radius of a few hundred kilometers. A gigantic sword appeared in the sky. There were mountains and rivers on this sword. These were not carved on it, but real mountains and rivers. This sword was his divine kingdom. Wang. In an instant, a rain field appeared out of thin air beneath the horrifying huge sword divine kingdom. The raindrops became faster and faster. Gradually, the raindrops turned into rain swords, and the entire area was completely covered by the rain swords. The rain swords were very small, only the size of a thumb. However, they were lifelike as if they were real sharp swords. Heavenly Rain Sword Domain. I once used this move to kill an expert at the peak of the godly state. I want to see who will kill who today. Rain Demon Sword God let out a low roar, and his body emitted a transcendent aura. Under this aura, the surrounding sword domain did not lose out to the aura of some experts at the peak of the godly state. Using the divine kingdom, is this Rain Demon Sword God's strongest move? Everyone was slightly shocked when they saw this scene. The raindrops turned into rain swords within 100 kilometers. This terrifying control power shocked everyone. Heavenly Rain Sword Domain. Wang Xian raised his eyebrows. His entire body was covered by the yin-yang and 5 elements ohms. The binding force of the 5 elements grinding had already descended. Pa 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 pa. When waves of energy entered the Heavenly Rain Sword Domain, the sharp swords landed on the energy and slowly pierced through it. Wang Xian was slightly shocked. A hint of surprise appeared on his face. Crash. At this moment, the densely packed blood-red chains entered the Heavenly Rain Sword Domain. Crack, crack, crack. An even more intense collision sound rang out. The sharp swords landed on the blood-red chains, causing numerous cracks to appear, and the chains were cut off. However, there were too many chains. They continued to surge in crazily and wound around the Rain Demon Sword God. I would like to see if your sword domain is stronger or my 7 luminary space is stronger. Wang Xian took this opportunity to wave his arm toward the sky. The 5 elements millstone flew toward the sky above the giant sword divine kingdom, while the yin and yang poles flew toward the area below. In an instant, the 5 elements millstone and the yin and yang poles hovered above and below the sky rain sword domain. Break for me. At this moment, an ice-cold roar was heard. Rain Devil Sword God was floating in the middle. When he saw the densely packed blood-red chains, he waved the raindrop sword in his hand. The rain sword within a radius of 100 kilometers was guided and directly attacked the chains. Bang bang bang. The intense collision caused the chains to quickly collapse. The densely packed blood-red chains disappeared at a terrifying speed. So powerful. The millions of people who were watching watched in astonishment. The rain swords were endless. No matter how many chains there were, they would be destroyed. Space of 7 elements. At this moment, Wang Xian let out a soft shout and flapped his 7-colored wings. Boom, boom, boom. In the sky, 5 divine dragons roared and emitted rays of light. Below, the yin and yang poles suddenly rose slowly, and a 7-colored spatial domain slowly surrounded the sky rain sword domain. Oh! Rain Demon Sword God saw the 7-colored light that suddenly enveloped him. He was slightly shocked and looked over. A domain similar to my sky rain sword domain. A trace of seriousness appeared on his face, followed by a sinister smile. Then I would like to experience it. Clang, clang, clang. He let out a wild roar, and the entire area was filled with the metallic clang of the water sword. Crack, crack, crack. The 7-colored radiance slowly descended and collided with the sky rain sword domain. A terrifying friction was created. Earth conquers water. Wang Xian let out a low roar. His body moved and he charged into the space of 7 elements. At the same time, the space of 7 luminaries slowly turned into a grayish color. Some earthy yellow energy was eroding towards the Heavenly Rain Sword domain. The soil entered the water and caused the water sword to slowly lose control. What? At this moment, the expression of the god of sword rain demon changed drastically. Kill him. He immediately roared and the remaining rain swords charged towards Wang Xian. Bus. Wang Xian waved his arm and an incomparably huge wall appeared in front of him. Countless rain swords landed on the wall and were slowly eroded by the earth attribute. If you don't have any moves, you can die. Wang Xian's cold voice rang out as the 7 luminary space began to compress. Look, the heavenly rain sword domain of the rain demon sword god is actually being compressed. Is the victor going to be decided? That Dragon King is so powerful. He isn't any weaker than the rain demon sword god. All the disciples of the Yu Huatian sect have basically been killed. This time the Yu Huatian sect is completely defeated. When everyone saw this scene, their expressions changed slightly. At the side, only a dozen of the 120 gods had been killed. If Rain Devil Sword God was killed, this terrifying battle would come to an end. They are still in the mood to fight amongst themselves. Many gods have died. Damn it, what a waste. If Wuxia had attacked from this place, none of them would have survived. Now they are still fighting amongst themselves. Let's go. The entire Northern Alliance should be here. It will save us a lot of time. Just as everyone was paying attention to the battle on the battlefield, more than 10 figures flew over from the rear. In the middle were 2 old men surrounded by 10 youths. Chapter 21-23. 21-23-2123, The Requisition of Eternal Thunderbolts. Die. In the space of 7 elements, Wang Xian stared at the rain demon sword god with a face full of killing intent. The space of 7 elements completely suppressed the heavenly rain sword domain. In the entire space of 7 elements, the rain demon sword god was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. No, the rain demon sword god actually died at the hands of someone of the same level. I don't believe it. The rain demon sword god waved the long sword in his hand with a face full of unwillingness and attacked Wang Xian. Boom, boom, boom. With a thought, Wang Xian gathered the dragon claws around the rain demon sword god and attacked him. After entering the space of 7 elements, one could either escape or defend against the 7 elements. Otherwise one would face endless attacks. Bang, bang, bang. The huge dragon claws landed on his sword and his body, causing his expression to change drastically. He spat out a mouthful of blood and his body was sent flying. Boom, boom, boom. Following that, continuous attacks landed on his body. Wang Xian quietly hovered in the space of 7 luminaries and watched his death and fall. 10 seconds later, the space of 7 luminaries slowly disappeared. There was a corpse floating in the air. When he died, he didn't scream too much. He was considered a man. He's dead. Rain Devil Sword God is dead. So fast. Rain Devil Sword God was killed by the Dragon King. Yu Huashan sect is finished. 120 gods were killed. When the 7 luminary space disappeared and everyone saw the Dragon King with 7 colored wings and 2 horns standing proudly in the air, they were slightly shocked. They looked at the corpse beside them, their eyes flashing with a luster. It's over. It's really unexpected. This Dragon Palace and the Dragon King. The bright elder from the Northern Expedition Trading Company watched and muttered softly. He swept his gaze across the experts from the Dragon Palace and the Dragon King in the air, revealing a trace of solemnity. Not far away, the experts from the God-burning God dynasty and the demonic God sect also revealed fearful expressions. The strength of the Dragon Palace could indeed cause them to be fearful. This battle of the Dragon Palace has completely established their strength and status in the northern region. Some disciples looked at the battlefield with reverence. The Yu Huashan divine sect had a total of 120 gods and 2 million demigod level and above disciples. All of them had been killed by the Dragon Palace. This battle had shaken the northern region. In the entire Northern Territory Alliance, only the Northern Expedition Trading Company and the Enchanting Divine Sect could contend with them. No other faction was a match for the Dragon Palace. Your Northern Territory Alliance is really boring. You all have the time to fight and kill here. It's great that you have so much energy. At this moment, an arrogant voice slowly sounded, covering an area of several thousand kilometers. The voice suddenly attracted everyone's attention. Some God Realm experts of the Northern Territory Alliance looked over, their eyes revealing a cold expression. That is. However, when everyone looked over and saw the 12 figures walking over from the void, their pupils constricted slightly. 2 old men stood in the middle. There was a purple heart-protecting mirror on their chests, and on the heart-protecting mirror was written a large God word. There were 10 young men around them. They were wearing special clothing, family clothing. Eternal Thunderclap. Those 2 old men are the Thunder God of Eternal Thunderclap. Some people looked at the two old men in the middle with shock on their faces. Thunder God was the name given by the Thunder God Lord to the peak stage Eternal Thunderclap. Once one reached the peak stage of the deity realm, they could be called the Thunder God. This was a very honorable title. In the entire northern region, Thunder God possessed great authority and prestige. No one dared to provoke him. And no one dared to provoke him. Greetings, Thunder God. The old man from the Northern Expedition Trading Company was the first to react. He cupped his hands toward the two old men from Eternal Thunder God. Greetings, Lord Thunder God. Those experts whose strength had not reached the peak of the deity realm immediately bowed. In the Northern Expedition Trading Company, there are 40 godly state experts and 2 peak of the godly state experts apart from Eternal Shocking Thunder's strongest faction. I'll recruit them. My younger brothers and sisters don't have any objections, right? Beside the old man, a long-haired young man with an imposing bearing and a proud expression held a folding fan in his hand. He looked indifferently at the young men and women around him as he spoke. Eternal Shocking Lightning and his group of 12 people completely ignored everyone from the Northern Region Alliance. However, his words caused everyone from the Northern Region Alliance to be shocked. Their eyes were filled with shock. Requisition? What did he mean? Big Brother's strength is stronger than ours. This time it's naturally up to Big Brother to choose. However, I'll requisition the demonic god sect. I'll be the second one to choose. You guys don't have any objections, right? At the side, a burly youth holding a thunder hammer immediately spoke up. The other young men and women didn't speak. It was clear that they tacitly agreed. Haha, since Seventh Brother has chosen the enchanting divine sect, then I'll choose the god-burning divine dynasty. A youth with a long spear on his back laughed loudly as he spoke. All right, it should be my turn next. Among the group of young men, one of the two ladies took a step forward. She looked at Wang Xian, who was in the void, and swept her gaze across all the members of the Dragon Palace. A look of pleasant surprise appeared on her face. I'll take this faction. If I'm not wrong, this is the Dragon Palace. They destroyed the Dragon Palace of the Tianyang Divine Dynasty. However, it's obvious that there are some unexpected surprises this time. She narrowed her eyes and smiled, revealing 2 dimples. Oh, that's not right. The Yu Huashan sect seems to have been destroyed. The 5 strongest factions that we agreed on are now missing 1. However, at this moment, a delicate-looking young man's expression changed slightly. His expression slowly turned ugly. It seems to be true. Lei Tianxing, your luck seems to be a little bad. The young man holding the folding fan said with a smile. What are they doing? When everyone in the Northern Region Alliance saw Eternal Thunderclap and the other young men picking and choosing among themselves, their expressions changed slightly. All of them frowned. The strongest experts of the Northern Expedition Trading Company's God-burning God Dynasty also frowned. They had a bad premonition in their hearts. Young masters of Eternal Thunderclap, may I know what you are doing? The bright elder from the Northern Expedition Trading Company hesitated for a moment before asking. The Order of the Eternal God Lord. Now that the Northern Region has been invaded by the Demon Cave, all the Northern Region's factions are to resist the Demon Cave together. Anyone who disobeys will be killed without mercy. An elder's dignified gaze swept over everyone from the Northern Region Alliance as he coldly said. What? At this moment, everyone's expressions changed drastically, their faces filled with shock and embarrassment. Mobilize all of your forces and enter the front lines. Northern Expedition Trading Company, call your guild leader and follow this young Master Tio establish undying feats. The first youth to speak stepped forward and directly ordered the Northern Expedition Trading Company. The old man's heart sank, and his expression changed drastically. I dare not disobey the Eternal God Lord's orders. Greetings, young Master Lei Beichen. Chapter 21-24 21-24 on the arrogant Lei Dongxue. I dare not disobey the order of the Eternal God Lord. Greetings, young Master Lei Beichen. The old man from the Northern Expedition Trading Company respectfully called out, his voice reverberating throughout the entire void. Lei Beichen, the strongest expert of the current generation of Eternal Shocking Thunder youths, had ignited 4 wisps of divine fire at such a young age. He was extremely famous throughout the entire Northern region. The bright old man from the Northern Expedition Trading Company naturally recognized him. The Northern Expedition Trading Company did not dare to remain silent in the face of his words. In a short span of 10 seconds he had already figured it out. Clearly, the Thunder God Lord wanted to gather the strength of the entire northern region and head to the front lines to fight against the demon lair. The main reason was to reduce Eternal Shocking Thunder's losses and make them cannon fodder. Even if he understood, he did not dare to resist in the slightest. Unless they immediately fled from the northern region, it was just as the Thunder God had said, those who disobeyed would die. Their foundation was here, how could they dare to escape? Moreover, there were 2 Thunder Gods in front of them personally. The God-burning God dynasty greets young Master Lei Donglin. The Enchanting God sect greets young Master Lei Tianming. The eyes of the strongest experts from the God-burning God dynasty and the Enchanting God sect flashed with helplessness. Seeing that the Northern Expedition Trading Company had submitted, they had no choice but to express their stance. They immediately bowed to the other 2 young men respectfully. When the surrounding millions of disciples saw this scene, a look of shock appeared on their faces. They looked at the group of young men in the air with a look of reverence. Lei Beichen, Lei Donglin, Lei Tianming, and the other 2 had looks of satisfaction on their faces as they nodded with smiles on their faces. "Oh, what? Where's your Dragon Palace?" The lady who was asking for the Dragon Palace looked at Wang Xian who was in the air and raised her eyebrows slightly. Eternal Thunderclap. Wang Xian frowned slightly when he heard the lady's words. Everyone in the surroundings looked at him. Listen to this young lady's instructions. Wang Xian cupped his hands to the lady expressionlessly and said, You don't know me?" The lady raised her head slightly and her face was filled with arrogance. "The Dragon Palace is small and insignificant. I'm sorry, ladies around." Wang Xian shook his head. He really didn't know this lady in front of him. "Remember my name, Lei Dongxue. From now on, your Dragon Palace will follow me and listen to my commands," Lei Dongxue said faintly. As the most outstanding member of Eternal Thunderclap's generation, she had a face that could topple countries and cities as well as stunning talent. Her name was definitely a well-known existence in the entire Eternal Thunderclap. "Wait, the Yu Huatian Divine Sect has been destroyed by you." At the side, Lei Tianxing stared at Wang Xian with an extremely embarrassed expression as he questioned in a low voice. "Leave none of them alive." Wang Xian looked at the young man with an expressionless face. "Damn it." Lei Tianxing's face revealed a stern expression as a terrifying killing intent shot out from his entire body. He stared at Wang Xian with a face full of anger. "Brother Tianxing, you can't blame others for your bad luck." Lei Dongxue sensed his killing intent and reminded him lightly. "The Yu Huashan sect belongs to me to begin with. This little dragon palace will destroy it. Those who don't know are innocent." Lei Tianxing said with a cold expression, but he was easily resolved by Lei Dongxue. "Lei Dongxue you." Lei Tianxing's expression changed drastically. He knew that he was really unlucky this time. As the 5th-ranked young generation in this Eternal Shocking Thunder competition, he could have chosen the 5th-ranked faction in the northern region. Everyone knew that apart from Eternal Thunderclap, only 5 other factions were relatively stronger. However, the 5th faction was destroyed by the Dragon Palace. This was very disadvantageous for them to earn merit points in the future. It must be known that if they could get a huge amount of merit points to fight against the Devil Den this time, not only would they be able to increase their position, but they would also be able to greatly increase their strength and obtain divine weapons. Now he could only choose the weaker factions. Follow the rules. Lei Dongxue looked at him with a smile. "The Yu Huashan sect originally belonged to me. Now that they have been destroyed, I want to take over all the resources of the Yu Huashan sect." Lei Tianxing growled with a gloomy face. "This won't do. The Yu Huashan sect was killed by our Dragon Palace. It won't be that easy to kill 2 gods of 9 wisps of divine fire. We won't hand over the spoils of war. Furthermore, you want to plunder our resources. Do you want us to do our best to help you?" Wang Xian immediately said when he heard his words. What a joke. How was it possible to hand over the resources of the Yu Huashan sect and the other 7 factions? The Dragon Palace had destroyed the Yu Huashan sect and the other 7 factions this time. How huge were the resources? This was a faction that had stood here for hundreds of thousands of years. Even 2 divine empires of the Sky Center could not compare to it. These resources were the key to Wang Xian igniting the fourth wisp of divine fire. It was also the key to him being able to possess the strength at the peak of the godly state. How could he allow Lei Tianxing to obtain it? Even if the other party was the disciple of eternal thunderclap. A horse without grass is not fat. This is what the Dragon Palace deserves. Lei Dongxue continued to speak from the side. Lei Tianxing stared at Wang Xian. His eyes were sparkling. Finally he swept his gaze at Lei Dongxue. His face was livid and he didn't say another word. He. Lei Beichen and the rest smiled faintly and didn't say a word. We have chosen the other factions. The other 5 young men spoke as they looked at all the factions in the Northern Alliance. Very soon the young men selected the factions one by one. None of the factions dared to resist. This was an order from Eternal Shocking Thunder. This is not only a good thing but also a bad thing. This feeling is a little unpleasant. Wang Xian hovered in the air and ordered Prime Minister Gue and the rest to clean up the battlefield quickly. He frowned slightly. The sudden appearance of Eternal Shocking Thunder had made them follow the younger generation of Eternal Shocking Thunder. With the current strength of the Dragon Palace, there was no way they could resist it. They could only follow the current course of action. He was a little worried that if he encountered an expert from the Eternal Shocking Thunder energy tide, his identity might be exposed. At that time the Dragon Palace would be in danger. Dragon Palace, I will follow you to the Yu Huashan sect's territory to see if there are any treasures that I can use. At this moment, Lei Dongxue flew over and said to Wang Xian with an unquestionable tone. Wang Xian frowned slightly but still nodded his head. This time Lei Dongshue's luck is really good. If I had known in advance, I might have chosen the Dragon Palace. This time Lei Dongxue picked up a loophole. The strength of this Dragon Palace is even stronger than the God-burning empire. Damn it. From the side, Lei Donglin, Lei Tianming, and the rest saw this and revealed envious looks on their faces. If they had known in advance, they would have chosen the Dragon Palace. Especially now that the Dragon Palace had destroyed the Yuhua Divine Sect. This place contained enormous treasures. Even to them it was a supreme treasure. In the past, Lei Dongxue looked down on other men. If we let her obtain some more treasures to increase her power, she would look down on us even more. The nearby youths thought to themselves. Chapter 21-25. 21-25 Under the arrogant Lei Dongxue. I want this divine artifact and these divine herbs and divine fruits. With these treasures, it won't be long before I can ignite 4 wisps of divine fire. At that time, even Lei Beichen will be defeated by my hands. At a place where the mountains on Yuhua planet overlapped, countless mountains were enveloped by a hazy aura. It was filled with a fairyland. At the highest peak in the center, Lei Dongshue's eyes were sparkling as she looked at the treasures in Yuhua Divine Sect's treasury. With a wave of her arm, she took a few of the most precious divine herbs, divine fruits and divine weapons in her hands. She looked at everything with a smile on her face. Wang Xian stood at the side and looked at the things that she wanted. A hint of coldness flashed across his eyes. Miss Lei Dongxue, aren't you taking a little too many things? Wang Xian said to her calmly. What? Do you have a problem with that? Now that your Dragon Palace has been requisitioned, to put it bluntly, you have to give me anything I want. Besides, if I didn't speak up for you, do you think you would be able to obtain these treasures? She looked at Wang Xian calmly. The corners of her mouth curled up slightly, revealing a beautiful curve. Are you Eternal Thunderclap trying to use us as slaves? Wang Xian looked at him and asked calmly. Haha, this means that all of you are still valuable. In this situation, the entire northern region has to listen to the orders of Eternal Thunderclap. Follow me and let me be satisfied. The later stage will be very beneficial to all of you. Do you know that if all of you are disobedient, I can order all of you to charge at the forefront when we reach the front line? Lei Dongxue stared at Wang Xian with a burning gaze. His face was filled with coldness and mockery. The main purpose of the young generation competition held by Eternal Thunderclap this time was to nurture the future pillar of Eternal Thunderclap, the future Thunder God. There were no rewards for the competition. The only reward was the right to control the other factions in the northern region. This was a huge right. Similarly, this reward was also very generous. It was so generous that countless outstanding disciples of the current generation would risk their lives for it. This was because once you had the right to control these powers, you could mobilize the resources and power of this power. This would be a huge advantage for them to accumulate merits. Wang Xian's heart sank when he heard her words. A faint killing intent surged up. A god who only had 3 wisps of divine fire actually dared to threaten him. However, Wang Xian really couldn't do anything about it at the moment. The other party was the outstanding disciple of Eternal Thunderclap. If he really killed him, he wouldn't need Eternal Thunderclap to do anything. If all the forces in the entire northern region were to join forces, they would be able to cause great losses to the Dragon Palace. This was also the reason why Lei Dongxue dared to follow them here alone. They had nothing to fear because they knew that no one would harm their outstanding Eternal Thunderclap disciples. The other factions in the northern region might seem glorious, but they had no ability to resist Eternal Thunderclap. Endure. Wang Xian suppressed the anger in his heart. With the current strength of the Dragon Palace, he could only endure. He didn't say anything and ordered Prime Minister Gue to get the rest of the treasures. He. Lei Dongxue could feel Wang Xian's dissatisfaction, but she didn't care at all. So what if she was dissatisfied? Following that, Wang Xian and the rest headed to the other 7 forces. Those 7 forces were all gods who possessed 7 or 8 wisps of divine fire. Each of them had a heritage that spanned hundreds of thousands of years. The treasures they controlled were worth a lot of money. Even Lei Dongxue was moved when she saw them. Her eyes were filled with passion and greed. All the items that she could use and that she had her eyes on were all kept by her. Wang Xian watched all of this in silence. Let's go and take a look at your Dragon Palace. After cleaning up the treasures of the 8 factions, Lei Dongxue said arrogantly to Wang Xian. Why are you going to the Dragon Palace? Wang Xian's heart sank as he asked Lei Dongxue. Of course I'm going to count the soldiers. I want to understand the soldiers under me. I'm going to your headquarters. I know it should be your divine kingdom. Lei Dongxue said to Wang Xian directly. I can summon the Dragon Palace directly. Wang Xian hesitated for a moment before saying. There's no need. A few of my friends also want to go to your place. I'm very curious about what kind of planet could give birth to such a force with so many gods. Lei Dongxue refused. He looked at him and said, let's go. We'll head there immediately. Time is of the essence. Wang Xian stood there and didn't reply. He frowned slightly. Don't waste time. Lei Dongxue looked at him with a burning gaze and emphasized again. All right, let's go. Wang Xian nodded and gestured to the members of the Dragon Palace around him. Let's go to Planet Liberty first. I want to gather with a few friends. As she spoke, she immediately flew toward the teleportation formation. Wang Xian followed closely behind and teleported to the location of Planet Liberty. Haha, Miss Lei Dongxue, congratulations this time. When they arrived at the Planet of Freedom, a woman, a middle-aged man, and 2 young men and women walked over with smiles on their faces. Hee, your luck is pretty good. Lei Dongxue smiled at the 4 of them and gestured to them. This is the leader of the Dragon Palace. He has followed me to establish a faction with meritorious deeds. There are many strong people. We have already heard about it. I believe that Miss Lei Dongxue will definitely be able to build up her immortal achievements this time around and receive the Lord God's commendation. The woman said with some flattery. I am still very confident in defeating the rest. Let's go and take a look at the planet of the leader of the Dragon Palace. Lei Dongxue's face was filled with confidence as he asked Wang Xian to lead the way. Wang Xian's gaze swept across the 4 of them. There were 2 middle-aged men. One of them had the strength of 9 wisps of divine fire while the other had the strength of 8 wisps of divine fire. The 2 young women had just ignited the divine fire. They should be Lei Dongxue's trusted aides or followers. He came to the teleportation formation and teleported towards Earth. Soon the group appeared at the seaside. Lei Dongxue immediately floated in the air and scanned her surroundings. The planet is a little small, but it's still average. She sized up her surroundings and commented indifferently. To him, Earth was indeed average. Let's go. Wang Xian said to her and flew straight into the ocean. Miss Lei Dongxue, this leader of the Dragon Palace seems a little unwilling. At the back, the woman saw Wang Xian and said coldly. So what if they are unwilling? He will come and beg me soon. Lei Dongxue looked at Wang Xian and said coldly. Let's go. I'm a little curious. How can there be nearly 100 gods in a dragon palace? Do they have some treasures? Lei Dongshua's eyes flickered as he flew toward the Dragon Palace. The four of them followed closely and flew toward the Dragon Palace. Chapter 21-26. 21-26 Pride and Death. Come in. Wang Xian looked at Lei Dongxue and the rest behind him and entered the Dragon Palace directly from the east gate. This Dragon Palace is really majestic. The young men and women behind Lei Dongxue looked at the Dragon Palace in front of them with sparkling eyes. Lei Dongxue, who was in front, scanned his surroundings with his sharp eyes and entered the Dragon Palace directly. Buzz! What thick spiritual energy! The two young men couldn't help but exclaim when they stepped into the Dragon Palace. The spiritual energy here is terrifyingly thick. The middle-aged man and the woman's expressions changed slightly, and their eyes were filled with shock. One of them had lit 9 wisps of divine fire, and the other had lit 8 wisps of divine fire. They had their own huge divine kingdom. However, the spiritual chi in their divine kingdom was very different. The spiritual chi in the Dragon Palace was more than 100 times more than in the outside world. This majestic spiritual chi was extremely terrifying. They had also been to the eternal divine kingdom, but the spiritual chi there was still very different from here. Perhaps only the eternal divine kingdom could have such spiritual chi. Lei Dongxue also looked around with awe in his heart, his eyes shining. Bring us to the central position. Also, call all the members of your Dragon Palace over. Lei Dongxue said to Wang Xian in a commanding tone. Wang Xian took a glance at her and walked straight into the Dragon King's hall. The moment they entered the Dragon King's hall, their faces were filled with awe. At this moment, Lei Dongxue was also visibly moved. She looked around with shock on her face. She looked at the dragon chair at the front and the ancestral tree behind the dragon chair. This spiritual energy is almost 200 times stronger than the others. She mumbled as her eyes sparkled. She looked at the dragon chair that was 1,000 meters in size and walked straight to it. Prime Minister Gue, call all the members of the Dragon Palace over. Wang Xian said to Prime Minister Gue. It's the Dragon King. Prime Minister Gue looked at Lei Dongxue unkindly and nodded respectfully to Wang Xian. What an imposing divine throne. Not bad, not bad, not bad at all. She stepped onto the stairs and stood in front of the dragon throne. Is this the divine tree? She looked at the ancestral tree behind the dragon throne and sized it up. There are fruits on it. What kind of power is this? It's so strange. Lei Dongxue looked at the soul-returning bodies and was filled with astonishment. Little Xian, you're back. Who are they? At this moment, Sun Lingxiu's voice rang out. She and Ling Jianer came out from the dragon bedroom and looked at Lei Dongxue and the rest with a frown. They're the people from Eternal Shocking Thunder. Wang Xian said to them and gestured for the two of them to come to his side. Eternal Shocking Thunder? The two girls were stunned for a moment and a hint of solemnity appeared on their faces. Oh, Dragon King, are these your two wives? Lei Dongxue was attracted by their gazes and looked at the two of them with slight surprise. All of them have lit the divine fire and their strength isn't weak. I really didn't expect it. Looking at Sun Lingxiu and Ling Jianer, she was slightly surprised. They were so young and their strength wasn't weaker than hers and even stronger than hers. She was extremely surprised. This Dragon Palace was extraordinary. Dragon King. Dragon King. At this moment, members of the Dragon Palace entered the Dragon King Palace one by one. More than 20,000 members followed the leaders of the combat divisions. When they saw Lei Dongxue in front of the dragon throne, their eyes sparkled. All the members of the Dragon Palace have arrived? Only 20,000 or so. The woman next to Lei Dongxue looked down in surprise. All of them are elites. None of them are lower than rank 8 demigod. This force is very strong. The surprised voice came from the woman's mouth again. She glanced at the members of the Dragon Palace and smiled. Miss Lei Dongxue, congratulations. The power of the Dragon Palace is very strong. She said with a smile. Haha, not bad, not bad. More than 100 godly state experts, more than 20,000 demigod rank 8, rank 9, and peak-level disciples. Lei Dongxue looked at the power of the Dragon Palace with a burning look in her eyes. This power was comparable to Eternal Shocking Thunder, a core-level army. I will definitely get a lot of merit points if I control the Dragon Palace. Her heart was burning with excitement as she witnessed the powerful Dragon Palace and the members of the Dragon Palace below. She couldn't help but feel excited about her choice. Voila! Lei Dongxue adjusted her clothes and slowly sat on the dragon chair behind her. She sat upright on the dragon chair with a proud expression on her face. The middle-aged man and the woman immediately stood on both sides and looked down at everyone in the Dragon Palace. I'm very satisfied with your Dragon Palace. If you're obedient, I won't mistreat you. Lei Dongshua's lips curled up slightly and his face was full of pride. Hurry up and thank some young ladies. The woman shouted coldly when she saw the indifferent members of the Dragon Palace. The power of a peak 9 wisps of divine fire slowly pressed forward. If you have the ability, you will naturally have status. Your Dragon Palace has the ability. Lei Dongxue waved her hand. She stared at Wang Xian and said, Dragon King, you are the #1 general under me. I heard that your Dragon Palace has 9 divine beasts that are pulling the divine throne. Those 9 divine beasts will be pulling the sedan beasts for me in the future. Also, you should be the Dragon King's wife. You have the light attribute and good healing and support abilities. The one beside you should be a sword cultivator. You guys will be by my side. She spoke slowly and stood up directly in the end. Does anyone object? Lei Dongxue stood proudly in front of the dragon throne in the Dragon King's palace. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly as he asked arrogantly. When Wang Xian heard his words, he sighed slightly. A contemplative look appeared on his face. The rest of the members of the Dragon Palace did not speak. They just stood there quietly. Sun Lingxiu and Ling Jian frowned. It's your good fortune to be able to follow our Miss Lei Dongxue. No one objected. It seems that they tacitly agreed. Hurry up and kneel down to show your loyalty. The middle-aged man saw that no one from the Dragon Palace said anything and immediately shouted. Hehe, follow me. In the future I can make you join Eternal Shocking Thunder. You will have several times more planets than you have now. Lei Dongxue sat down slowly and said proudly. Sai, do you really think that you can act recklessly just because of the name Eternal Thunderclap? Wang Xianai sighed slightly. Ha! Lei Dongxue was slightly stunned. She raised her eyebrows and turned to Wang Xian coldly. What? Dragon King? Are you going to defy our Eternal Thunderclap and the Lord of Thunderclap? Her voice was sharp. Walala. As soon as she finished speaking, Prime Minister Gue waved his hand, and all the members of the Dragon Palace took a step forward slowly. No one dares to sit on the throne of the Dragon King, and no one is qualified to sit on it. Prime Minister Gui's voice was cold, and killing intent burst out of the members of the Dragon Palace. Chapter 21-27 21-27 2127 in control. Prime Minister Gui's voice resounded throughout the entire Dragon King Palace. As the members of the Dragon Palace took a step forward, an invisible and terrifying aura filled the entire Dragon King Palace with killing intent. No one dared to sit on the throne of the Dragon King, and no one had the right to do so. At this moment, Lei Dongshua's pupils constricted slightly on the dragon throne, and his face slowly turned ugly. Dragon Palace, what are you trying to do? Disobey Miss Lei Dongshua's orders? Disobey the orders of the Thunder God Lord? With just your tiny Dragon Palace? You dare to disobey the orders of the God Lord? Are you trying to bring about your own destruction? A young man standing at the front of the dragon throne shouted with a stern expression. His gaze swept across the members of the Dragon Palace below, and his eyes were filled with disdain. In the entire northern region, who would dare to disobey the orders of the God of Thunder? No one would dare. Disobeying the orders of the God of Thunder was no different from courting death. Dragon King, I'm very angry now. I'll give you 10 seconds to satisfy me within 10 seconds. Otherwise, I'll make all of you regret coming into this world. Lei Dongxue sat on the dragon throne and stared coldly at Wang Xian. Her face was filled with coldness. Even when she was facing everyone from the Dragon Palace, she was not afraid at all. This was because this was the northern region. She had brought the order of the Lord of Thunderclap to recruit all the major factions. As long as any faction dared to resist, what awaited them was destruction. As for her own safety, she was not worried at all. This was because if anything happened to her, it would be a provocation to the entire Eternal Thunderclap. In the face of such a force, eternal thunderclap would definitely take action and get rid of her. No force would dare to touch her. Sitting on the dragon chair, Lei Dongxue was still high and mighty. Another ant who thinks he is high and mighty just because of his background. Wang Xian looked at Lei Dongxue who was sitting on the dragon chair and said mockingly, "With your background, I didn't want to make a move initially. However, you are too greedy and arrogant. What right does a woman with 3 wisps of divine fire have to order me around?" He raised his head slightly and said each word coldly. "Oh." As Wang Xian said that, he moved his arm and a claw instantly appeared in front of Lei Dongxue. It was aimed at her neck. "What? Dragon King, you are courting your own death." Lei Dongxue saw that Wang Xian dared to attack. At this moment, her superior expression completely disappeared. She shouted in a panic. "You dare to attack the elite disciples of eternal shocking thunder. Dragon Palace, you are all dead meat." The woman with 9 wisps of divine fire beside her shouted sternly. She moved her hand to block the attack. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, thorns appeared out of thin air under the feet of the woman and the other 3 people. The ancestral tree behind the dragon throne emitted a faint green light. "Oh no." The middle-aged woman's expression changed drastically when she saw the experts from the Dragon Palace attacking. Her eyes revealed a look of panic. Boom. Wang Xian's body trembled. The power that belonged to the Dragon Palace pressed directly on them. As the divine kingdom of Wang Xian, the Dragon Palace was naturally under his control. Entering a stranger's divine kingdom was definitely not a good thing. If one did not have great strength to break out of the divine kingdom, they might be suppressed in there forever. That was because this was someone else's world. Oh. The woman and the middle-aged man's expressions changed drastically. Their bodies seemed to be suppressed by a star. The thorns wrapped around their bodies. Ah! In the next moment, the sharp thorns entered their bodies. Their life force disappeared at a terrifying speed. "Miss Lei Dongxue, save us." The 4 of them revealed terrified expressions as they screamed shrilly. At this moment, Lei Dongshue's face was filled with fear. She opened her mouth. But before she could speak, the energy claw grabbed her neck. Her face turned red instantly. Her delicate face was filled with panic. "No, no, you, release." Her body struggled violently as she stared at Wang Xian in horror. She never expected that the Dragon King of the Dragon Palace would dare to attack her. Did they want to die? He actually dared to attack her. Ah! At this moment, 4 desperate screams came from beside her. She looked over and her face was filled with shock. The powerhouse that she had spent so much effort to recruit was actually killed. That god with 9 wisps of divine fire did not have the ability to resist at all. "Don't kill me." She begged for mercy with a face full of panic. "It's too late." Wang Xian said faintly and exerted a little strength in his palm. Crack, crack. Her eyes widened and her entire body trembled as she felt the arrival of death. Wang Xian waved his arm and threw her corpse into the Dragon King's hall. "Xiao Xian, if we kill her, will there be eternal thunder for revenge?" "With our strength." Sun Lingxiu saw the arrogant woman being killed and said with some worry. "It's a little troublesome, but we have already found a countermeasure." Wang Xian smiled at her. At the side, Prime Minister Gue walked straight to the front of the dragon chair. He wiped the spot where Lei Dongxue had sat and plucked a soul-returning embryo from the ancestral tree. Giving her a soul-returning embryo is such a waste. Prime Minister Gue walked to the corpse and said with a cold gaze. "There's nothing we can do about it. However, controlling it will be beneficial to us in the future." Wang Xian said faintly. A few hours ago, after witnessing Lei Dongshue's greed and arrogance, Wang Xian and Prime Minister Gue came up with a solution. Wang Xian and the rest would naturally not coddle a woman with 3 wisps of divine fire. However, the Dragon Palace could not afford to offend the background of the Eternal Thunderbolt. She could use other methods to control it. Once she found the Thunder God Lord, she could easily deal with it. By then, the Dragon Palace would be destroyed. There was only one way, which was to kill it and resurrect it with the soul-returning embryo and the dragon blood token. Lei Dongxue, who was resurrected in the Dragon Palace, could be considered a member of the Dragon Palace. In that case, she would only have one will. The Dragon Palace would be her master, and the Dragon King would be her master. At that time, even the God Lord would not be able to sense what had happened to her. It would be a waste of an extremely precious soul-returning embryo. It's good that you're all right. Little Xian, you can handle the matters of the Dragon Palace. Shu Qing and the rest are in the Transcendence Continent. Jin'er and I have to rush over. Sun Lingxiu saw that Wang Xian had a way to deal with it and flew out of the Dragon Palace with Ling Jian. The group of girls were currently building their Dragon and Phoenix Empire. Dragon King, she should be able to be revived soon. Prime Minister Gui took Lei Donglin's corpse and spoke to Wang Xian. Wang Xian nodded his head and the two of them walked into the Dragon Transformation Pool. After placing him into the Dragon Transformation Pool, Lei Dongxue, who had a soul-returning embryo and had only been dead for a few minutes, regained consciousness very quickly. Voila! She flew out from the Dragon Transformation Pool with a horrified expression on her face. She stared at Wang Xian with a slightly distorted expression. However, very soon, a respectful expression appeared on her face. Greetings, Dragon King. Chapter 21-28 21-28 2128 Cannon Fodder. Greetings, Dragon King. Lei Dongxue knelt in front of Wang Xian. She didn't have the arrogance from before. Compared to before, they were two completely different people. Wang Xian stared at her indifferently and revealed a smile on his face. Get up. It's the Dragon King. Lei Dongxue stood respectfully beside Wang Xian. She was filled with respect. Do you still have your own memories? Do you remember everything that happened? Wang Xian asked her calmly. I know. It was Dongxue who recklessly offended the Dragon King. Thank you, Dragon King, for allowing me to be reborn. Lei Dongxue replied quickly. It's good that you know. Tell me about the purpose of Eternal Shocking Thunder's recruitment of the other forces in the northern region. Wang Xian asked her. Dragon King, not long ago, Eternal Shocking Thunder was invaded by a large number of demonic beasts from the demon lair. Even the demonic dragon behind the demonic beasts from the demon lair appeared. At that time, the god of Shocking Thunder appeared, but he wasn't able to kill him. He was even tricked by him and was poisoned. However, the demonic dragon was in an even worse state. His tail was left behind and he had to fight for his life to escape. Now, the demonic dragon is taking revenge on us and countless demonic beasts are attacking us. In order to avoid losses, we, Eternal Thunderclap, have decided to recruit all the forces in the entire northern region. Lei Dongxue said slowly to Wang Xian. Recruit all the forces in the northern region to fight against demonic beasts as cannon fodder. Wang Xian raised his eyebrows. More or less. Among demonic beasts, there are more than 20 existences at the peak of the godly state. Even the thunder god of Eternal Thunderclap only has this number. Under such a battle, even if we can win, we will probably suffer heavy losses. We might even lose half of our strength. Therefore, we will recruit other forces to reduce the losses of Eternal Thunderclap. Lei Dongxue nodded. In other words, after we head to Eternal Thunderclap tomorrow, we will enter the front line directly. Wang Xian looked at her. That's right. We will enter the front lines directly. However, whether or not we will be treated as cannon fodder will be another matter. This depends on our decision. As the masters of these forces, we have the right to make a decision. However, in order to obtain merit points, there will definitely be disciples who will order the other forces in the northern region to be treated as cannon fodder. Every time they kill a demonic beast, we will obtain some merit points. Lei Dongxue said so. Your Eternal Thunderclap is really powerful. Wang Xian narrowed his eyes slightly. Dragon King, don't worry. As long as I'm here, I will not let the members of the Dragon Palace be used as cannon fodder. Lei Dongxue said immediately. What about the demonic beast corpses that we killed? Can we obtain them? Wang Xian's eyes flickered as he asked her. Naturally, there will be some benefits to the Eternal Thunderclap faction. Otherwise, the other factions in the northern region will definitely fight with their lives on the line when they know they are dead. Half of the dead body of Wuxia can be obtained. The other half belongs to the Eternal Thunderclap faction. You can use the dead body of Wuxia to exchange for items, formations, and the Eternal Thunderclap faction to open the treasury. There are no treasures in the outside world. Some of the treasures are extremely attractive to those at the peak of the godly state. Lei Dongxue said. Even so, he is still a cannon fodder. Wang Xian mumbled as he opened his palm and took out Lei Dongxue's interspatial ring. Inside the interspatial ring were the divine herbs and divine fruits that she had obtained from Wang Xian, as well as various treasures. There were a total of more than 150 godly state experts from the 7 factions, plus the treasures in their lair. That's enough. Wang Xian revealed a faint smile. The treasures from the Tianyang divine dynasty, the treasures from the 8 forces of the Yuhuashan sect, and all sorts of divine herbs and elixirs were enough to ignite the divine fire again. Will it be alright if those 4 middle-aged women are killed? If so, think of a way to get rid of them. We will set off tomorrow. Wang Xian said to her before turning around and flying into the Dragon King's hall. The Dragon Palace had no choice but to obey the order of Eternal Thunderclap. However, after his strength had increased, coupled with Lei Dongshue's presence, the danger level would be much lower. After arriving at the Dragon King's palace, Wang Xian poured out all the resources in his interspatial ring and the mother nest. Roar! Roar! His body moved and transformed into an enormous 7-colored divine dragon, devouring all sorts of resources in large mouthfuls. After lighting another wisp of divine fire, he would have the strength of a peak deity. At that time, apart from the Thunder God, he would not be afraid of anyone else in the northern region. As long as he was given enough time and resources, the Thunder God would not hesitate to kill him. Roar! 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 Ding! Congratulations to host for raising your level and lighting the 4th wisp of divine fire. Name Wang Xian. Race, Yin-Yang 5 Elements Divine Dragon, Mandragon Unity. Level, 4 wisps of divine fire, 5th change of the divine dragon transformation. Divine Crystal, 235. 4,000,000/100 billion. Supernatural ability, ruling the water tribe below one's level. Devouring creatures to extract divine crystals. Control of the 5 elements. Cultivation method, divine dragon transformation. Supernatural ability, soul absorbing, spirit attaching, Yin-Yang 5 elements dragon eyes. Aspect, 5 elements millstone, dragon kingdom in the palm, dragon head under the heavens, dragon body of 10,000 miles, Yin-Yang poles, Yin-Yang 5 elements arms bowl, divine dragon tail swing. Divine kingdom, Dragon Palace. Dragon Palace, level 6. Dragon Palace members, 33,633. 10 minutes later, an extremely majestic roar was heard throughout the entire Dragon Palace. The dragon body of 15,000 meters was entrenched in the Dragon King's palace. It was like an extremely mystical mountain peak. The 7-colored dragon scales flickered with a divine glow, causing one to be dazzled. That faint dragon aura caused all creatures below the divine realm to tremble. This form. At this moment in front of the Dragon King's palace, Lei Dongxue was looking at Wang Xian's form. Her eyes were wide open and a shocked expression appeared on her face. It's actually similar to the demonic dragon. However, it looks much more majestic and noble than the demonic dragon. Some people say that the demonic dragon possesses the bloodline of the legendary divine dragon. Could it be that the Dragon King also possesses it? She mumbled to herself. The divine dragon had long disappeared. There were only some historical records of such terrifying existences. However, according to the records, the divine dragon had already disappeared. There were only some demonic beasts that possessed the bloodline of the divine dragon. Now that she was looking at the 7-colored Dragon King, she felt that the legendary divine dragon might not be as powerful as it. Peak of the godly state. If I were to encounter an existence like the Rain Demon Sword God now, I would be able to kill him within 10 moves. Feeling the powerful strength in his body and looking at his attributes, the corners of Wang Xian's mouth curled up slightly. Congratulations to Dragon King for another breakthrough. Prime Minister Gue walked over and said with a smile on his face. Prime Minister Gue, select 15,000 members and follow Eternal Thunderclap tomorrow. Wang Xian transformed into his human form and said to Prime Minister Gui in a good mood. It's the Dragon King. I'll go prepare immediately. Prime Minister Gue nodded his head. When do we set off tomorrow? Wang Xian looked at Lei Dongxue who was not far away. Reporting to the Dragon King. We will set off at noon tomorrow. Lei Dongxue nodded his head respectfully. All right. Wang Xian nodded his head. After hesitating for a moment, he flew towards the Transcendence continent. He did not know how long he would be away for this trip. He would go and see the group of girls first. Chapter 21-29. 21-29 2129, the vast front line of the war. Let's go. At noon the next day, Wang Xian led 15,000 disciples of the Dragon Palace out of the Dragon Palace. In the center of the front row, Lei Dongxue was riding on a fire phoenix dragon seat. She raised her head slightly and regained her arrogant look. Wang Xian followed by the side and the group headed toward the teleportation formation. In order to prevent the people from the eternal thunderstorms from noticing anything, Wang Xian made Lei Dongxue return to her usual appearance. On the surface she was the leader. Dragon King, the front line is located on the Steel Planet. That is the front line of the fight against the demonic beast. We will need 2 hours to teleport through the formation. Lei Dongxue whispered to Wang Xian. Alright, let's go there first. Wang Xian nodded. The Steel Planet was not a cultivation planet, but a technological planet. It was located not far from the border between the northern region and the central region. In the vast universe, not only were there cultivation planets, there were also many technological planets like Earth in the past. Powerful technological planets and technological weapons could destroy gods. However, after most technological planets learned about cultivation techniques, they gradually turned to cultivation techniques. After all, cultivation techniques could allow humans to live for tens of thousands of years or even 100,000 years. They could travel through the void with their physical bodies. This was something that the technology of the technological planets could not achieve. But, after 2 hours of continuous teleportation, Wang Xian and the rest arrived above a building made of steel. There were numerous transparent glass houses in the surroundings. People would appear from time to time in the glass houses, and some would enter the glass houses and disappear. The entire huge building was filled with a sense of technology. Wang Xian's gaze swept across the surroundings. There were many huge cities made of steel in the surroundings, which impacted everyone's line of sight. The Steel Planet is the strongest technological planet in the northern region. The technological weapons here can kill gods with 3 to 4 wisps of divine fire. If they were any stronger, they wouldn't be able to do it. Lei Dongxue raised his head proudly and transmitted his voice to Wang Xian. Now, we need to report to the front line so that we can prepare for the upcoming battle. He continued. Lead the way. Wang Xian nodded and followed behind Lei Dongxue as they flew towards the front. In the surroundings there were flying cars shuttling in the air. There were also many cultivators flying in the sky. There are so many people on this planet. Wang Xian swept his gaze across the surroundings. All of them were densely packed and he asked curiously. The Steel Planet is now the front line of the entire Eternal Thunderclap. Currently, almost 100 cultivators and powerhouses from all the planets have come here. Not only did Eternal Thunderclap recruit many forces, they also attracted more than 1 billion cultivators to guard the front line through missions. In addition to the various powerful armies and logistics personnel of Eternal Shocking Thunder, the number of people on this planet has increased by more than 2 billion. Lei Dongxue reported. By the way, have the experts who were stationed at the energy tide come over. Wang Xian's heart skipped a beat as he asked hurriedly. No. The energy tide is also a relatively important place. Once we evacuate, it will be completely occupied by the Eternal Divine Leaf. Lei Dongxue said with some doubt. Although she was puzzled, she didn't dare to ask further. That's good. Wang Xian mumbled. More than 10,000 people flew forward. The people around them looked at them in astonishment. When they saw Lei Dongxue, all of them had a look of awe on their faces. Clearly this person was very famous in Eternal Shocking Thunder. Many people knew him. The area of the Steel Planet was huge. Wang Xian estimated that it was at least 1 to 200 times larger than Earth. After flying for half an hour, he finally arrived at the front line. When Wang Xian saw the battle line in front of him, his face revealed a look of shock. An incomparably huge steel city wall stood in the void. The entire steel city wall was at least tens of millions of kilometers long. Its height reached up to millions of kilometers. At this moment, cultivators were standing densely on the silver-white steel city wall. In front of them there was a meteorite floating in the void. There were big and small meteorites. The big meteorites were hundreds of kilometers in size while the small ones were thousands of meters in size. It looked extremely chaotic. The meteorites were densely packed and there was a demonic roar in the middle. When Wang Xian got closer to the Steel City wall, he noticed that there were many gigantic war machines on the Steel City wall. At this moment, a beam of light with a diameter of 1,000 meters headed straight for the demonic beast in front of him. The terrifying beam of light penetrated tens of millions of kilometers into the void. Most of the demonic beasts that were hit by it would not be able to escape death. That is the light obliteration cannon. It uses technology to control the power of light and is able to kill an immortal-level existence. Lei Dongxue saw Wang Xian's curious expression and explained to him through voice transmission. It's really magical. It's similar to a formation. Wang Xian's eyes sparkled as he said. Technology is indeed similar to a formation. It's a way of using attributes. Lei Dongxue hesitated for a moment before saying. He landed on the silver-white Steel City wall and looked at the endless void in front of him. Wang Xian's eyes sparkled. This was the starry sky of the universe. Let's go to the Eternal Thunderclap Command Center. Lei Dongxue walked toward the center. Miss Lei, congratulations. I heard that you are now in control of a very powerful force. Lord Lei. Lord Lei. Along the way, some people greeted Lei Dongxue enthusiastically. Wang Xian watched silently from the side. After walking for only a dozen kilometers, he encountered more than 30 gods. The number of gods here was terrifying. Dragon King were here. It might be a little offensive to speak later. Lei Dongxue said softly and looked at the command center in front of him. It's all right. Act according to your character. Wang Xian nodded his head. The command center of a silvery white steel building was filled with a sense of technology. When Lei Dongxue walked forward, the metal door opened directly. Inside was an incomparably huge command center. The entire battlefield could be seen clearly from here. At this moment, there were more than 1 million people gathered inside. They are all here. Wang Xian's gaze swept across the area and realized that the people from the Northern Expedition Trading Company, the God-Burning Dynasty, and the Enchanting Divine Gate were all inside. He narrowed his eyes slightly. His gaze swept across the location of the Northern Expedition Trading Company. When he killed the Rain Demon Sword God, he had mentioned that the Northern Expedition Trading Company was the one who told them about this news. Wang Xian was somewhat suspicious. The Northern Expedition Trading Company had to a certain extent been involved in the Yu Huaxian sect's ambush. Lei Dongxue, you are the only one left. At the front, Lei Tianxing saw them arrive and said coldly. His gaze swept past Wang Xian and the others, and a hint of coldness flashed in his eyes. This time, if it wasn't for the Dragon Palace, he could have taken over the Yu Huaxian sect. But now, compared to Lei Donglin, Lei Beichen and the others, the difference was enormous. In the future, the difference between them would only grow larger and larger. This was all because of the Dragon Palace and Ridong Shui. Towards this, he was filled with hatred towards Ridong Shui and the Dragon Palace. Chapter 2130. 2130 and 2130's intense battle. You guys are early. Lei Dongxue scanned the surroundings and led Wang Xian and the rest straight ahead. Aren't there close to 100 godly state experts in the Dragon Palace? Why are there only 50 of them here? Lei Beichen and the rest looked behind Lei Dongxue. They were slightly surprised as they swept their gaze across the area. I have my own plans for this, there's no need for everyone to worry about me. Lei Dongxue smiled faintly, his gaze turning to an old man in front of him. He bowed and called out, Lord Thunder God. That's right, since you're all here, I'll call the rest of the Thunder Gods over. The old man's gaze swept over the group of experts in front of him, and he nodded indifferently. With a thought, he transmitted his voice to each of them. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Are all the forces of the Northern Territory Alliance here? I heard that they are still in the mood to fight among themselves. It seems that they are living too comfortably. Figures slowly appeared in front of them. They were standing on the high platform in front of them. There were about 20 figures. Some of them were wearing the clothes of the Eternal Thunderclap clan, while others were wearing battle armors. Each of the old men exuded a terrifying pressure and were filled with dignity. Their eyes swept forward, and their faces were filled with pride. Seeing the 20 figures in front of them, the faces of everyone from the Northern Territory Alliance changed slightly, and their eyes were filled with respect. Even the three-peaked deity realm experts from the Northern Territory Alliance were looking at them solemnly. Hearing the Thunder God's words, they looked a little embarrassed. "Greetings, Lord Thunder God." Lei Dong Shui Lei Bei Qin, and the other youths immediately called out respectfully when they saw the 20 Thunder Gods. Close to 600 deity realm experts and 3 peak deity realm experts. Their strength isn't bad. There are some things that you should know. Don't have any thoughts. The entire Northern Territory is in danger now. If it wasn't for us, eternal shocking thunder, you would have been destroyed. This time we will recruit you. Listen to the orders of my eternal shocking thunder disciples. Anyone who dares to disobey us will be exterminated by our hands. An old man with a knife scar on his face and a ferocious expression on his face, dressed in battle armor, coldly warned the other factions. Everyone, don't worry. We, eternal shocking thunder, are not asking you to die. This is also an opportunity for you. The treasury of eternal shocking thunder is open to all of you. As long as you have merit points, you can exchange for any treasure. Especially the 3 peak God realm experts. If you can kill 2 peak God realm experts, our God Lord has said that we can directly confer you the title of Thunder God. After the middle-aged man finished speaking, an old man beside him took over his words and comforted him. A big stick and a sweet date. After all, the forces of the Northern Region Alliance were not slaves. Below them, the forces heard their words and did not speak. They already knew this. Although they were directly recruited, it was better if they were lucky and could obtain many items. Some items were extremely precious to them. They could only accept such a situation. You 10 outstanding disciples each choose a stronghold. The more demonic beasts you kill, the more meritorious deeds you will receive. In addition, special operations are required. You must unconditionally agree. The scarred Thunder God who had just started speaking said. As his voice fell, he disappeared. The rest of the Thunder Gods also left. Only one stayed behind. You should know the location of the stronghold. Choose your stronghold and organize an attack in an hour. The last remaining Thunder God ordered them. It's Lord Thunder God. Leave it to us. Lei Beichen bowed and said with a smile. Alright, you guys go. I'll supervise the battle in an hour. Thunder God nodded. He turned around to look at the void battleground in front of him, keeping an eye on his surroundings. 10 strongholds. We want the central stronghold. At this moment, Lei Beichen immediately said to the other 9 young men and women, I want the center too. I want to be close to the center. As soon as Lei Beichen finished speaking, Lei Donglin, Lei Tianming, and the others immediately spoke as well. I want the one on the left. Lei Dongxue also spoke up. Lei Dongxue, the strength of the Dragon Palace is not bad, yet you chose the safest place. Don't you want merit points? After Lei Dongxue made his choice, Lei Beichen and the rest looked over in astonishment. You guys don't need to worry about my matters. Lei Dongxue said calmly and walked straight towards the location of the stronghold. Is there anything special about this stronghold? Wang Xian followed behind and asked Lei Dongxue. There are 10 strongholds and they are also the center of the demonic invasion. You have to be constantly attacked by Xiao Xian and Yao Xia there. Sometimes there will be demonic beasts at the peak of the godly state. If you are not careful, you will suffer heavy losses. Lei Dongxue explained to Wang Xian in a low voice. I see. Wang Xian nodded his head faintly. Killing Yao Xia could earn merit points. However, Lei Dongxue, who had been subdued, was now focusing on the safety of the Dragon Palace. Therefore she chose the safest place. The rest of the young men with eternal shock couldn't wait to choose the center seat. As for the death of the Northern Alliance, it had nothing to do with them. As long as they had merit points, it was enough. Lei Dongxue, you guys are finally here. We can relax a little. When they arrived at a stronghold in the center of the Steel City wall, a middle-aged man saw them walking over and said with a smile. Thank you for your hard work, Lord Renault. Leave this place to me. Lei Dongxue said with a smile. Alright. I'll leave it to you, Dongxue. Your strength is not bad. As the middle-aged man spoke, his gaze swept across Wang Xian and the rest behind her as he praised her. Dragon King, send someone to guard this stronghold. The moment any evil spirit steps 20 kilometers into the Steel City wall, kill them immediately. Lei Dongxue smiled and commanded the Dragon King with an imposing manner. One had to complete the act. All right. Wang Xian nodded his head and gestured to the surrounding members of the Dragon Palace. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. One by one, the members of the Dragon Palace stood in front of the steel city wall and stared straight ahead. A group of demonic beasts is coming over. Just as the members of the Dragon Palace dispersed, a group of demonic beasts rushed over from the front. There were at least a few thousand of them, and there was a celestial-level demonic beast among them. Go over and kill them. The Dragon King looked over and immediately gave an order. Be careful. Demonic beasts are very cunning. They are not here to die in vain. There might be more powerful demonic beasts hidden among them. The number of demonic beasts is terrifying. They are using this method to wear down our strength. Lei Dongxue immediately reminded him from the side. Oh. Wang Xian raised his eyebrows and a strange look flashed in his eyes. When he looked towards the demonic evil that was charging towards him, he was slightly taken aback. There was actually a demonic evil with 6 wisps of divine fire hidden within that demonic evil. If he were to send some members of the Dragon Palace over unprepared, they would all die there. Chapter 2131. 2131. In the intense battle of 2131, demons were mainly bestial in nature and they were mainly bloodthirsty. However, this didn't mean that they were unintelligent. On the contrary, their battle experience couldn't even be compared to many humans. They wouldn't blindly come here to throw their lives away. They also knew some strategies. Sneak attack, ambush, lure, and escape. Among them there's a demon with 6 wisps of divine fire. Ao Xingmu, hide behind the members of the Dragon Palace and deal with that demon with 6 wisps of divine fire. Wang Xian looked at the thousands of evil demons that were flying towards him and instructed Ao Xingmu. Yes, Dragon King. Leave it to me. Ao Xingmu nodded and gestured to his subordinates. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In an instant, under the leadership of a starwood dragon species that had ignited 2 wisps of divine fire, he attacked the thousands of evil demons directly. Roar. Standing on the steel city wall, Wang Xian could hear the roars of the demonic beasts and the bloody aura. Looking at the demonic beasts, he was a little puzzled. Where did these demonic beasts come from? Why did they have the characteristics of the bug race? The only difference was that the growth rate of the demonic beasts was much lower than that of the bug race. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. More than 500 members of the Starwood Combat Division flew over and twined around the demonic beasts. The leader of the group ignited 2 wisps of divine fire Starwood Combat Division members and locked onto the Yao God at the front of Yao Xie. Roar, roar. Suddenly, behind Yao Xie, a Yao Xie's body expanded explosively and emitted a monstrous evil aura. Its eyes were blood red as it ferociously attacked the Starwood Combat Division members. You're courting death. Ao Xingmu, who had been hiding in the back, looked at the cunning Yao Xie and revealed a cold expression. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In an instant, the branches that filled the sky enveloped all of them. Buzz. With a wave of his arm, all of the demonic experts were enveloped and killed easily. Wang Xian stood on the steel city wall and watched with a smile on his face. After all, Ao Xingmu, who was comparable to 9 wisps of divine fire, was able to kill thousands of demonic experts easily. Dragon King. Ao Xingmu and the rest flew over and placed the demonic beasts' corpses on the ground. Dragon King, the technology of the steel city wall can record the demonic beasts killed in the stronghold. These demonic beasts' corpses should be placed in a separate spot. Lei Dongxue walked over and reminded Wang Xian in a low voice. Can't I take half of them away now? Wang Xian frowned slightly and said to her. No, you have to wait for a fixed time before you can collect the body of the demonic beasts or exchange for merit points. Lei Dongxue shook her head. Wang Xian frowned and felt a little uncomfortable. Dragon King, this base of ours is considered a place where the demonic beasts seldom attack. Even so, you have seen the situation, Dragon King? No one knows if there are stronger demonic beasts among the demonic beasts that are attacking us. Every time we clean up these invading demonic beasts, we can't let the experts of the 9 wisps of divine fire attack continuously. Otherwise, the god of the 9 wisps of divine fire won't be able to hold on. This is the result of such a situation. If we're unlucky, it's very likely that the person who killed the demonic beasts won't be able to come back. Lei Dongxue told Wang Xian about the situation and experience here. Wang Xian nodded slightly. Ah, this is bad. There are stronger demonic beasts among them. Sir, please save us. At this moment, screams of pain came from the side. Wang Xian looked over and narrowed his eyes slightly. We are the 10th stronghold here and the 9th one over there. That faction of the Northern Alliance is in trouble, Lei Dongxue said. No wonder Eternal Thunderclap would recruit all the factions in the northern region. Even Eternal Thunderclap can't withstand such a loss. Wang Xian said plainly. Dragon King, there are demons attacking again. At this moment, Ao Qitian's voice rang out. Wang Xian looked ahead and saw a cloud of black fog flying towards them. The black fog covered an area of 200 to 300 kilometers. It was impossible to see how many demons were in the black fog. There's such a method. Wang Xian raised his eyebrows. Lei Dongxue, who was beside him, nodded his head. A godly state member will lead 1,000 members and charge over. Wang Xian stared into the black fog with his yin-yang and 5 elements dragon eyes and ordered immediately. Yes. The group of Dragon Palace members flew over immediately and charged towards Yao Xie, who was in the black fog. Following that, Yao Xie would definitely invade every 10 minutes or so. There would be all kinds of methods and ambushes. Fortunately, Wang Xian had the yin-yang and 5 elements dragon eyes. Otherwise, unless Ao Qitian and the rest kept attacking, there would definitely be casualties. In front of the entire steel city wall, the demonic roars and human screams were incessant. Especially in the middle, the battle became even more intense. Get ready, take the initiative to attack. An hour later, a voice suddenly sounded. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, 2 to 3 million cultivators flew out from the back. The leaders were 5 armored thunder gods. Some of them were wielding thunder hammers while others were wielding spears. Their bodies were emitting a terrifying aura. The million-strong army was silent. Only a majestic aura was suspended in the air, causing one's heart to palpitate. At least 200 gods were standing behind the 5 thunder gods. It was extremely terrifying. It's time to attack. Wang Xian looked over and a hint of seriousness appeared on his face. Dragon King, prepare to attack. Lei Dongxue whispered to him before floating in the air. Disciples of the Dragon Palace, line up. She shouted loudly. Walala. Wang Xian gestured to the members of the Dragon Palace and floated behind Lei Dongxue. Disciples of the Northern Expedition Chamber of Commerce, follow me. Disciples of the God-Burning Dynasty, prepare for battle. Strong and confident shouts came from the right. The forces of the Northern Region Alliance will be the vanguard this time. In the sky, a thunder god shouted coldly. Lei Dongxue led more than 10,000 members of the Dragon Palace towards the right. Soon, they gathered together with more than 6 million forces of the Northern Region Alliance. This time, almost 80% of the forces of the Northern Territory Alliance were mobilized. There were 500 God Realm experts alone. Buzz. At this moment, 5 figures suddenly came to the center of the forces of the Northern Territory Alliance. The Northern Territory Alliance will be led by the 5 of us in this battle. No force of the Northern Territory Alliance can disobey. Those who disobey will be killed. An old man wearing a bamboo hat shouted with a cold face. Ha! Everyone from the Northern Alliance was slightly shocked when they saw the 5 figures that suddenly floated in the air in front of them. What are they doing? Wang Xian raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at them in astonishment. They want merit points. What a good plan. Although the 10 of U.S. disciples have recruited all the factions of the Northern Alliance and all the factions listen to our orders, those factions should consider the orders of the experts of the Northern Alliance. The Northern Territory Alliance only has 3 peak deity realm experts. The other forces don't dare to refuse. If they really attack and kill those who disobey, we won't be able to protect them. Lei Dongshua's expression slightly changed as he solemnly said from the side. Chapter 2132. 2132. In the midst of a terrible battle. In front of the steel wall, the president and vice president of the Northern Expedition Trading Company, the leader of the Gate of God, and Lei Beichen Lei Tianming. The 5 of them stood in the center of the position, exuding a powerful force, staring at all the forces of the Northern Alliance. 3 gods at the top, 5 or 6 million disciples of the Northern League, and about 500 gods. When the eternal thunderclaps Redong Linley and the others saw this scene, their faces slowly began to turn ugly. They were doing this because they wanted to control the power of the entire Northern Alliance in their own hands, so that they could obtain the most merit points. Although they had the authority to order the various powers of the Northern Alliance. These powers, under the threat of the 3 peak stage deities of the Northern Expedition Trading Company, had no choice but to obey. Normally, as the most outstanding young generation of Eternal Thunderclap, they had the ability to make the various factions ignore the orders of the Northern Expedition Trading Company and the enchanting Divine Gate. However, they still had to face Lei Beichen and Lei Tianming. If they appeared, Lei Beichen and Lei Tianming would also appear. As the first and second place winners of the grand competition not long ago, if they were to join forces, even if the other 8 people were to join forces, it would be difficult for them to contend against them. Damn it, I didn't expect the Northern Expedition Trading Company and the bewitching Divine Gate to actually want to direct this war. Young Master Lei Donglin, if you can't stop them, we must listen to the orders of the Northern Expedition Trading Company and the bewitching Divine Gate. Otherwise, once they take revenge on us. When the Emperor of the God-Burning Dynasty saw this scene, his expression was similarly unsightly as he spoke to Lei Donglin by his side. In the entire Northern Region Alliance, only the Northern Expedition Trading Company and the Demonic God Sect had peak deity realm experts. Now that the 2 factions had joined forces, they did not dare to disobey. If I step out to stop them, Lei Beichen, Lei Tianming, and the others will also step out to stop them. Lei Donglin's expression was extremely ugly. He looked at the other people around him and saw that their expressions were the same, filled with helplessness. There's nothing we can do. He shook his head in a low voice. He felt a little helpless. Then our God-Burning God Dynasty has nothing we can do. The Emperor of the God-Burning God Dynasty said in a low voice. He looked at the 5 people in front of him and said directly, our God-Burning God Dynasty listens to the orders of the guild leader and the sect leader. We also listen to the orders of the 5 of you. Seeing that the God-Burning God Dynasty had responded, the other factions immediately spoke up as well. Haha, good. Lei Beichen and Lei Tianming looked at each other when they saw this scene. Their faces were filled with excitement. Next, I hope that everyone will obediently follow orders. Otherwise, you will regret it for the rest of your lives. Lei Beichen spoke out with a faint warning. Yes. The disciples of the Northern Region Alliance immediately responded loudly. It's not bad to be able to unite them. Let's go. At this moment, a thunder god at the back said calmly. It's Lord Thunder God. Let's go. Lei Beichen shouted loudly, high-spirited. Let's go. The Elder of Light from the Northern Expedition Chamber of Commerce also shouted loudly. 5 to 6 million troops immediately flew towards the void ahead. Wind-type cultivators with flying mounts, go ahead and scout the situation. Flying Wing Sect, go ahead and scout. In the dense area of meteorites ahead, no one knew if there was an evil spirit lurking behind these meteorites. At this moment, the president of the Northern Expedition Chamber of Commerce swept his gaze behind him, landing on a group of people with flying mounts and a sect. He immediately gave the order. The expressions of everyone from the Flying Wing sect changed slightly when they heard the order from the president of the Northern Expedition Trading Company. The expression of the youth who had recruited them, Eternal Shocking Thunder, was also incomparably ugly. Going to investigate was undoubtedly the most dangerous. One moment of carelessness could result in death. Yes. However, how could they dare to disobey at this moment? If they went to investigate, they would still have a chance of surviving. If they disobeyed, they would definitely perish in the future. In an instant, more than 100,000 cultivators with green wings and mounts flew forward to investigate the situation. After flying for only 50 to 60 kilometers, miserable screams sounded. There are more than 10,000 demons here. A disciple shouted with a face full of fear. There are also demons here. We have demons here too. Following that, voices rang out one after another. Some disciples were being chased by thousands or even tens of thousands of demonic beasts. Some were directly swallowed into their mouths. Northern Expedition Trading Company disciples, Enchanting Divine Gate Disciples, kill. Danger was detected. Lei Beichen and Lei Tianming immediately ordered loudly. Kill, kill, kill. A group of disciples and gods immediately rushed over and killed Wuxia. Lei Beichen and Lei Tianming are really smart. They got the other factions to investigate the situation. After confirming that it was safe, they ordered the Northern Expedition Trading Company and the disciples of the Enchanting Celestial Sect to take action. Such meritorious deeds are all theirs. As the other factions did not fight with Wuxia, although the people sent out to investigate were very dangerous, they could reduce the losses by a lot. They wouldn't have much of an opinion. Killing two birds with one stone. The ones at a disadvantage are only me and the other 7 disciples. Lei Dongxue looked ahead and said to Wang Xian. Okay. Wang Xian nodded his head slightly. A thoughtful look appeared on his face. After being recruited to the front line, he had to think of a way to obtain a large number of Wuxia's corpses. Otherwise, staying here would be under the control of others. Moreover, it would be very dangerous. Boom, boom, boom. As the battle progressed, Wang Xian and the rest did not have the chance to make a move because of the presence of the Northern Expedition Trading Company and the disciples of the Enchanting Divine Sect. A large group of people were sent to scout ahead. After the Northern Expedition Trading Company and the disciples of the Enchanting Divine Sect confirmed that they were safe, they made their move and killed them. The huge group of people advanced forward rapidly. Soon they entered the dense meteor rocks. However, more and more people died, especially those who went to investigate. Among the hundreds of thousands of people, at least 70% of them would die. Meanwhile, the disciples of the Northern Expedition Trading Company, the Enchanting Divine Sect, and even the godly state experts also began to die. The battle was extremely tragic. Wails, roars, and howls filled an area of tens of thousands of kilometers. The deeper they went, the more terrifying the number of demonic beasts became. When they advanced about 500 kilometers, the number of demonic beasts around them had already reached hundreds of millions. Among them, there were 200 to 300 deity-level demonic beasts. Young Master Lei Beichen, we have to get everyone to take action. Otherwise, our Northern Expedition Trading Company will suffer too many losses. In the center, the Northern Expedition Trading Company's president said with an embarrassed expression when he saw the loss of his disciples. Sure. Beside him, Lei Beichen, whose face was filled with excitement, hesitated for a moment before slowly nodding his head. If they were to let the Northern Expedition Trading Company fight alone again, the Northern Expedition Trading Company might have some objections. All factions attack and kill Wuxia. The leader of the Enchanting God sect immediately ordered loudly from the side. Go, go. Kill him. Kill more Wuxia from the demon lair. When Lei Tianxing, Lei Donglin, and the rest heard the order, they immediately gave the order to the commandeering faction with an embarrassed expression. Let's begin too. A strong fighting spirit flashed in Wang Xian's eyes. Although they could only obtain half of the bodies of the demonic beasts, it would still be a huge amount of resources if there were too many of them. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.